Well, well, well. What do we have here? How y'all doing today? Doing good? Happy Wednesday. What is it? March 26th. Today is going to be a hangout, maybe some debate prep. I'm debating feminism, whether it's good for society. So I don't know how much prep there is needed. I'm partnering with Jake Rattlesnake. I will be streaming it here on this channel tomorrow, 7:15. So that'll be fun. I don't even know how much there is to prep, though. I mean, I'll probably make a big document or something, but lay out the problems. There's actually deep philosophical issues with feminism, which is my root attack on it. But there are also just basic practical issues as well as outcome issues with feminism. Ultimately, it's based on a lie, so that's one problem. Complete lie. We can't sustain a society with the notion of egalitarianism. That's a problem. You can't sustain a society without children. That's a problem. So it should be. Who are we fighting? I'm not even sure. Looks like Jay's going to be debating some chicken head tonight. Jeff Bros, welcome to Golden Folder. How are you? Thank you so much. Set up my goal here. And by all means, if there's something you guys saw that you want me to bring up, have some fun with it, tell me, let me know. Yesterday I didn't stream, I was drawing. I laid out I wrote an animation. It's going to be fun. And next Wednesday, it looks like Wednesday, my regular streaming time, or at least somewhat regular. We're shooting for 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to do a full Mormonism stream. So, get excited. Anywho, how are you guys doing? How the heck are you? Vigo, John Castle, Nasty Fripples, John Mandragon. How are y'all doing? Good? Good? We good? Played a bunch of guitar yesterday. Started using this pick. Anyone in the chat use a pick? Thumb pick? I didn't know how much I missed this pick. So I kind of got lazy. I was like, well, I'll just use my fingers. But got this bad boy back on. It's quite fun. To all my guitarists in the chat. The challenge with this pick is I actually shorten it. You could see my little gross extended fingernail. Megan's totally grossed out by that. But it is required for some thumb picking. But the challenge with this pick is finger picking and then doing cross picking combination. But once you get it down, there's no going back. Those are too small. That's funny you say that, Chef, because I actually trimmed this down. The regular pick was about, I don't know, at least a quarter inch longer than this. I actually shaved it down. So, Joe Rogan cap. Did Joe Rogan have someone on? Is there anything to review? Honestly, I mean, I called this a feminist debate stream prep, but I don't even know what there would be to prep. No, I don't want to get like cocky or anything, but feminism is such a shit show. I don't even know what to say. Oh, your thumb's too big. Yeah, you know what you do, Chef? you take the pick and you go to your coffee machine or heat up some water, boil some water, and let the boiling water sit for maybe 30 seconds, and then throw the pick in, wait, I don't know, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, take it out and bend it a little bit bigger and put it on your thumb and wait for it to cool down on your thumb. Look at Camille LaPaglia. I even disagree with her. You know, when I went through my classical liberal phase, Tom Sowell and, Ben Shapiro and all these people. Camille LaPaglia, or whatever her name is, she's always saying, well, they ruined it. The modern feminists ruined it. The original one was glorious. And that's not even true. So even Camille is wrong. Andrew versus Tommy, yeah, that was he pretty much wrecked her. Because a lot of these conservative commentators, well, they probably know at this point. They've probably seen enough of Andrew's stuff to know in advance. But if they don't know, they might assume that they're on each other's teams. So like, oh, cool, the conservatives are going to wreck these liberals. And then they're in for a rude awakening when Andrew turns on them as the covert feminists, as he calls them. And, yeah, she doesn't, that kind of revealed that she is, in fact, just a classical liberal. There's nothing really rooted in her politics beyond just the superficial politics of, like, going against the leftards. And they're always the same. They're always like super done up, and they're like, the quote hot conservative, they're Barbie. They look like Barbies always. But in the end, they're in a sense a type of liberal. Daddy Crawford did a soy pod with Johnny Chang. Oh, I can't handle Johnny Chang. The guy's the worst. I did see that Bryce Crawford did a thing with that degenerate, but I really don't want to. I don't want to even hear or look at them. I don't want to. What is his name? Adam 22 or whatever. I don't know why we even give these people attention. Trad Thoughts? Yeah, Trad Thoughts, pretty much. I'm trying to look on my feed if there's anything that's funny worth reviewing. Because, who are we kidding? We're going to go through the problems with feminism right now? I think I mistitled the stream, honestly. I don't even want to talk about feminism. Slow Rain. This is interesting that popped up on my YouTube. The title is Slow Rain and Banjo 8 hours. That sounds awesome. It's called Slow Banjo. Subscribe immediately. Slow Banjo and Rain. That's genius. Genius. Look at that. It is genius. 717,000 views just in 3 months here. Slow Rain and Banjo 8 hours is the title. Gosh, I love YouTube. I really love it. Who am I eating? Well, I was going to be debate prepping for, I'm debating Not So Erudite and some other feminist man tomorrow. But I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to I don't even want to look at her. I've seen enough footage of the erudite chick, especially from the early days of the Crucible. And well, actually, I should look at the dude she's debating, or who's debating with her. Let's do that. Let's do some responsible oppositional research, okay? I don't want to get cocky. Don't get cocky, kid. What's his name? I don't even know his name. Let's see what his name is. Honestly, I just want to ignore you all and listen to 8 hours of rain and banjo. That's what I want to do. All right, let's go to Sarah Tomatoes. By the way, Sarah Tomato, if you're listening, I'm going to give you an unsolicited tip. You got to consolidate all of your super chats, because people send super chats because they want them read. And a lot of times with the debate, they want them read specifically to a specific person or a side. So you have this habit of bringing up the super chats silently and letting the audience just kind of sort of read them. And if you do that, there are a lot of people who are just not going to super chat because of that. They're just going to be like, what? Just sent $10 and you just brought it on the screen, but it wasn't like a moment. You know, you didn't make a moment out of it. That's what people pay super chats for. So can you stop doing that? Yeah, you can call in, dude. I'm on, you can go to Discord. Let me see, where are we at? Let's go to, you can go to the Atheist Evolution server, or part of my server there. I'm in there right now. Yeah, we can do that. Hey, what better debate prep for feminism than having Andrew fucking Wilson call in? I gotta still find this guy's name though. What is he? Who is this person? Sarah Tomato. Who is this? Who are these people? Who am I even debating anymore? No. All right, so Not So Erudite and who is this? Team Harbog. What? Who is it? Ken Harbo. All right. Well, we'll check some things. He seems like a real woman simp. That's what I think is happening. He's like a real simpy guy. See, look, Ticky Tack says for $5. Nubs, Ticky Tack, I thought you did a good job on that panel the other night. Even though I think you're retarded for thinking we landed on the moon, but whatever. Andrew, are you there? Let me get you up on the screen here, quick. There we go. Effigy? Did you say effigy? Oh, I thought you were referring to that idiot. You know that guy, right? All right.
Who?
Can you?
Effigy? No, I don't know a guy named Effigy.
You've debated. His name is Animated Effigy. He's a real dipshit on the panel, in the panel verse.
Oh, well, there's a lot of fucking dipshits that I...
Yeah, he's forgettable. What's going on?
What's up? Okay, so I wanted to maybe give you a little insight into an easy cheat sheet to beat erudite very quickly.
Okay.
Right. So her focus is always on empiricism rather than philosophy because, well, you know, she's like a social psychologist basically, but not really though. She's not really a psychologist. She's a psychotic magician or whatever, psychometrician. So what they do basically is they just go over data and stats all day. That's all they do, right? But the big exploit for her that's really easy is she's a dual set ethicist. So she is a Christian, who believes that Christian ethics do not apply to non-Christians. And so she can never condemn any bad behavior from anybody who's not a Christian. She can only condemn bad behavior from Christians.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. And
yeah.
even after being corrected on it multiple times, she has still doubled down on that position. So because she's unwilling to yield any ground on that position, it's just like the ultimate cheat, because you just bring that up and then that's the end of the debate, because she's unwilling to make any ought claims for condemnations of things which go against Christian ethics unless it's two Christians.
Wow, that's interesting, because it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong if there's another angle to this, but it sounds like the defeater isn't it the case that a policy is a correction, a type of correction for people?
It's an ought, right?
Yeah.
So well, not just that, but the other defeater is like, well, then why would anybody want to become a Christian?
Yeah.
Right? If there's no moral condemnation from Christians on what it is that you're doing wrong,
yeah,
what is the incentive even for people to become Christians?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like a conversion, should people convert, is a should claim, and it's a correction. Isn't a conversion, repentance, a correction? So what is Christianity without correction, and what's a conversion? Do you want people to be Christian?
Well, and what if Christianity requires repentance? Repentance from what?
Yeah, exactly. If they can't be corrected. Yeah, there's no incorrect form that they're in.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So if they only need to repent if they are Christians, that's a big problem, right? Because the whole point of the conversion is that they're supposed to come and repent for all of the sins they did, whether they were Christians or not Christians, right?
Does she believe this, or did she use this as a sort of a meme operation against you specifically?
She not only believes it, but she is now heavily invested in it.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was completely unwilling to back off on the position. She was just totally unwilling to. There was hours and hours of theologians calling in and correcting her, and she later came out and said, well, she had Catholic priests, which is not true, but she claimed this. The Catholic priests even called her and told her that she was right. That the ethical status only, is only for Catholics. So the reason why this is so important is because she refuses to condemn sex work, condemn OnlyFans, condemn prostitution, condemn homosexuality. She refuses to condemn any of those things.
Yeah.
And she says that the reason she doesn't is because morality only exists for them if they become Christians. Otherwise, it doesn't. And so you have no business correcting it.
Yeah, it sounds like she's taken a truth that does exist, even within Orthodoxy, that we're more rigorous with people in the church, obviously, when we're approaching them than people outside, but doesn't follow that it's like a free pass on society itself. It sounds like she's just making a leap, right?
Well, it's not just that, but the rigors in Orthodoxy are not even designed to hold you to a bigger standard. It's designed around the belief that if you're spreading false theology, right, you are actually assisting people in their damnation.
Right.
And so correcting you takes precedent, right? Because if you're spouting the wrong theology, then you actually are moving people into perhaps a worse condition than if they weren't believers at all, right?
Yeah. And so this topic, if she goes here, this will only come up as a response to some meta-ethical attack, which is it's like one of my specialties. But this debate, feminism itself, as you've demonstrated as a debate, sometimes you don't even need to go to the larger philosophical angles, even though they're, worthy of pursue. It seems like basic
it's
shit.
It's really easy to get her on this by just bringing up that is Christianity a patriarchal religion, and should people follow it?
Right.
And if she says they should follow it, but it's not a patriarchal religion, that's it. That's the end of that whole debate, right?
Right.
The whole thing is done. because, okay, well, was Christ a patriarch or,
Mhm.
and then, well, he's gender fluid or some
Yeah,
shit,
yeah, yeah. There's a see where she
whatever
goes with it.
stupid shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever stupid shit they come up with. But they usually have to make the concession, feminists who also claim Christianity
Hmm.
usually have to make the concession that it is a patriarchal religion. And so it's a contradiction in terms because feminism necessarily is trying to dismantle patriarchal systems to
Hmm.
make them egalitarian systems, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're
That's.
like, okay, well, can women be priests? And she'll be like, yeah. Can women,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So they
Mm-hmm.
just and it's like, well, then it's you really saying it's not a patriarchal religion,
Right.
you know? So it's a pretty easy conflict that you can easily exploit, is all I'm saying.
No, that's a good angle. I didn't know that about her specifically. That she tried to do this like weird, crappy
Yeah,
Christian thing.
yeah. The clips on my channel, if you want to watch it, it's in Alex or it's on Alex PWF's as well. When I get into it with her, even Destiny shut up. He was like, "Oh shit, this is stupid." He was like, "Uh-oh."
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, that's a really easy one, right? And it's a massive conflict in her worldview, and she just hates touching on it because she can't reconcile it. She just
Yeah.
can't reconcile it.
Why do you think
So,
she doubles down on it? If she is she just dumb and doesn't realize she shouldn't do that, or
um, no, the erudite's one of those chicks, like many women, who she would, they're always praised as being the smart girl in class, right?
mm,
Because they have the unique ability to regurgitate information, but they don't have a unique ability to contextualize what they regurgitate,
yeah, it
right?
also makes her a little different than a general secularist like fembot. Like
Yeah.
oh, you have some virtue corner here that you can hold to. Kind of gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an optic thing, but
Yeah, well, she considers orthodoxy to be Sadducees, and
mm,
she considers orthodoxy to be a faux religion.
right.
But when pressed, right, she also moves over to a Roman Catholic position, which is fucking hilarious. And you can just point out, like, okay, can women be popes? And it's like, no. Oh, okay. Well, that sounds an awful lot like a patriarchy, doesn't it? Like, so only men can be at the top of this hierarchy?
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's a patriarchy, so I'm not sure how you support that exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole the,
Yeah.
the whole top-down structure is patriarchal, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. It's not just the philosophy she's going to espouse, but you have to tie the view, the Christian view, even her shitty version, to some sort of authority. And if you call that authority the church, and she agrees that Christ is the high priest of this thing called the church, and everything, and if she says that society should ultimately reflect or be in some extension of the church, that would be a good goal to have. She's pretty much toast, right? Because
Oh yeah, well, and you can ask some really basic questions that are pretty brutal too. You can just ask like, why did Christ incarnate as a man?
right,
Why? Why
yeah,
was
what's the
that?
purpose? Yeah.
Are you saying that there was a mistake that was made, or
Yeah, yeah, or take a redeem zoomer approach where it could have been anything. Could have been
yeah, it could have
a
been any.
crab.
Well, even right, and that's even worse, right?
Yeah, it
That's
is. Yeah.
even worse and dumber. I don't even think she'll say that. I think she'll just give you gobbledygook. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just gobbledygook that's untenable. But it's a contradiction in the worldview.
Hmm.
So you'll see this a lot with feminist Christians, right? When you dive into the worldview and just ask about the patriarchal nature of Christianity itself, their ability to reconcile it is like 0%.
Yeah, and it's not
They
even a
just they
common.
just don't know how
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, and it's not a
Go ahead.
common enough, especially in the mainstream. Like it, patriarchy is just a meme that you engage with or not, but hardly ever people are talking about. Well, if you're holding even a general Christian or conservative view that's tied to a general Christian view, and you attack this problem of egalitarianism in contrast to a patriarchy, like explicit patriarchy. They don't know where to go. It's probably just not brought up because you can't really cover it in sound bites, I bet, that quickly.
Well, for her, the definition too, she'll quibble on it, and that's fine. Like I would let her quibble on it. I would just because if you say feminism is the movement towards egalitarian structures and the deconstruction of patriarchy, she'll probably quibble and say, well, I'm not for deconstructing the patriarchy, or I'm not for getting rid of the patriarchy. But you can just kind of really point out the obvious, which is, okay, so then you support the patriarchy? And if she says no, I don't, please, you just be like, well, then like, what's the actual position here? Are you just neutral on the patriarchy?
Yeah.
And she'll have to be like, well, no, not really. And like, when they try to quibble about that, I'm not for getting rid of the patriarchy. You're like, oh, okay, well, then do you support it? It's like, no, I don't actually support it either. They just don't want to depend on the definition of their view, right?
I mean, how else, like, how many other ways can someone try to move against the patriarchy, the definition of feminism, including antithesis to patriarchy? How else could they do it? I haven't heard.
If feminism is the view of freeing yourself from oppression, who are you being oppressed by? Other women?
Right.
And they'll say no. Okay, well, that only leaves one other possibility, unless you're like being oppressed by monkeys or apes or something weird, But the only possibility that I can think of for an oppressor-oppressed relationship between men and women is that it has to either be men or it has to either be women.
Right.
Right? Like, what else can it be?
Yeah.
So.
And then I assume she also takes a general, like, liberation position, that autonomy and all the rest that follows, as her second position.
Yeah. She's pro-choice, pro-LGBTQ. She's pro-trans, pro everything. When it comes to woke ideology, she's on the forefront of that as well. So she can be reasonable, but just remember that she hides her positions. Like, she hides them. You got to drag them out.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, the first thing I would do is drag the positions out. And one of the first things she'll say is like, I don't want to do a meta-ethical debate. And you can just agree to that and not do one.
Okay.
But still get the definitions of these things under control quickly.
Right. Well, also, if she says that, I could say, okay, that's fair. We'll discuss all of these topical things, but if you do make an odd claim about society and how it should operate, can I at least call out that that's a meta-ethical position? Because honestly, you can't escape meta-ethics, but I understand what's meant by that. You don't want to go deep into the philosophical sludge.
The philosophy. Well, and one thing you point out too is like, well, look, if you're just wanting to move towards a more egalitarian society, if men are the current ones who are in charge of that society, how is that not you wanting to deconstruct patriarchy?
Yeah.
And I think she'll have to kind of concede that it is, right?
Yeah. And if you did want to, I think you're right. She's probably just going to try to stay as neutral as possible and not make any big claims like we should do this or that. But even if she said, well, maybe we should explore society being run by more women or something, I would just ask, how is it you're going to accomplish that? Like, how are you actually going to make that happen practically? Because right around the corner to that claim is the force doctrine and application that's right there. Like, there's no way you can do it without relying on the thing that's against your view, like every time.
Well, another thing that's really fun to do with the egalitarian types, the more autonomy, more equality types, is just say, okay, for every claim you make for what X group should have, I need to know what the equal claim is for what the other group is getting. What are they getting? Which equalizes this.
Right.
And they can never actually tell you how it equals itself out. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're removing men from power, what are they getting?
Yeah, that was my angle with voting, and it still needed to be cleaned up a little bit. I ran that by you when I debated Rob, which was something like the act of voting for a man is a sort of trade-off from using their force, like collectivizing their force in the here now. And they're saying, I'll participate in this voting bullshit, and it's an expression of outsourcing the monopoly of force to the state. Okay, the alternative is, no, I'm not going to vote. I'm going to do this. I'm going to gather my men and my force and try to make something happen. And if the vote for a man is the trade of using their force, I'm not sure what the woman is trading. Like, like the rhetoric is, they're just they're not going to gossip as much. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do? What's the trade-off for even a woman voting?
Well, I think the easy affirmative position to take is just to say, like, look, necessarily society has to be defended, and necessarily society's defenders are going to be men.
Mm-hmm.
They have to take that role because women are just not capable of that role.
Yeah.
So that's the case. Mm-hmm. That's a pivotal duty that men have, and you can quibble and say some women can participate in some aspects of that duty, and you can just kind of grant it and say, yeah, that's true. But but if they have this duty to society, then what is women's duty?
None, right?
That is
from feminism.
That is the that is the equivalent to that. You never ask them what the duty is, because they'll say shit like, be a nice person.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You have to ask, but that's an equal duty, right? So men and women both have to do that.
Yeah.
So what you're asking is, what is the duty that women have that is on par with this duty that men have to be the societal protectors?
Is to make. Would you say that if they were smart enough, they might say, making children, raising children, and will protect?
Yes. Well, but that would destroy the leftist view.
Right.
So the second you say women have a duty to have children, right? That just destroys the entire purpose of women's liberation to begin with.
Yeah.
Which is the elimination of the duty to have children and be part of this patriarchal manscape and this and that. Yeah, if they were smart, they would say, well, the duty that's on par with that is we're the reproducers of society, and we have a duty to do that. But they'll never say that. And so they can never come up with an actual duty that's on par with that, because the obvious one, right? The obvious one, which is what gives us the incentive to protect society, is that they have children.
Yeah. Have children. Yeah. That's the equivalent for what their nature is to what a man's nature is.
Yeah. To what a man's nature is. So because they never say that, right? You can deliver this tactic to a feminist endlessly, and they have zero defense against it. It doesn't matter how educated they are, how educated they're not.
Yeah.
There is zero defense. And the thing that's funny is they can say, well, not all men can protect. And you can just kind of respond and say, well, not all women can give childbirth.
Right.
Right? Not all women can can have children either, but we would treat them in the same class protection as those that could, because that's still their duty. Just like you need to treat men in the same class protection of protectors as men, even if they can't for various reasons of disability and this and that. So I mean, it's just it's a total defeater.
Yeah, it's not only a duty, but it would be a logical and practical necessity. So even if someone said not all men can defend the same way, it would still require men generally, collectively, to defend, like in the end. And same with women. It requires women to have a child. Like, it's not going to change.
Children.
Yeah.
Even if all women can't have children, it's still it's the necessary entailment that only women can.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the protection of the nation. While it's true that not all men can do this, it is an entailment that only men can. So, that's it. That's the end of the argument, essentially. So when people are talking about gender roles and they have trouble like identifying, well, these gender roles are social constructs and this and that, and it's like, well, I guess in a sense that's true, right? But also, there are some practical truths that are inescapable, which is
Yeah.
that the defense of your nation and the enforcement of its laws are going to be done by men,
Right.
period.
Yeah.
There's going to be done by the stronger sex,
Mm.
um, and you can only protect from the stronger sex with the stronger sex. So if you want a society in which men protect women's rights, protect women
Mm-hmm.
from being, raped and
Mm-hmm.
exploited and things like this, then I would agree with you that that's a duty that men should have. What's the equivalent that women have?
Right.
And just watch them implode. They just implode.
Yeah. Do you think that, being that the topic is feminism good for society, without getting into meta about what good means, I've noticed that in all of the debates that are happening with secularists, this Christian versus secularist meme that's happening, when we go to duties, they're pretty much done. Like, because there's no duties under secularism, and feminism is very similar. So when we don't we set up, isn't it best for Jake and I to set up before that argument, Andrew, to set up to see if we can get them to affirm that is what's good for society? Let's say we just grant you what's good, your definition. Is it necessary that society then take on obligations to defend what you think is good? Isn't that a necessary component? Like, even if we granted what they think is good, just for the sake of the argument, is that necessary as a preliminary step, or is that just like implied in the argument, you think?
I think that that laying it out is still a good idea, even if people come to it anyway, because there's no escaping it.
Yeah.
I still think that laying out, like, look, do people have any kind of duty to society? And they'll just say that there's some kind of bizarre shared duty, which revolves around like being nice and having goodwill and
Yeah.
helping homeless bums get a sandwich or whatever the fuck
Right.
it is, right?
Yeah.
That they'll say is a shared duty. But they'll never say that there's a gender specific duty, right? Ever. Or in this case, a sex specific duty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, men don't need to be the protectors, right?
Mm.
Which is hilarious because descriptively they do, and
Right.
prescriptively they do, right? Like, I think you could maybe make a prescription where women took all of the law enforcement, military, intelligence, and et cetera roles, but your nation would just get steamrolled in like a week, right? So
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah. And they might go to
Like,
robots. They might go to robots hypothetically, but that is still men servicing and making all the shit, carrying
yeah,
it
but
around.
even if it is the case that in the future, well, I would point this out. I would just point out, like, if it is the case that you think robots are going to be there to secure women's rights, what happens if we have a robot that allows for men to reproduce without women? What do you think happens to women's rights then?
Right. Yeah.
So what you're doing then is you're making a comparison, saying, what happens if we have the irrational, the consistently irrational, and the consistent type of human that has hormone imbalances, high mental illness, and is weaker than the other human who focuses on rationality, doesn't have trouble with hormone regulation, and is much stronger. So what happens in this distinction when we introduce robots is that the very thing you think liberates women actually ends up enslaving them, because if men had control over reproduction, absent needing to enslave women for it, then then wouldn't they select for men?
Right. Yeah. Well,
That's what they did in China. That's what they did in China, and that's what they've always done when there's scarcity of children. They select for men. So,
Right. And that's what's funny about the meme. They always bring up Handmaid's Tale, and they try to blame that on some sort of, like, they try to make that like a religious thing, where it's like, it's actually the opposite. That kind of reality would be more the result of a secular and feminist approach, where you would produce, the view itself and the practice actually reduces procreation. It would cause the enslavement of women for procreation. From a Christian view, especially, even an Islamic view, which I think that tale was kind of nodding to. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even them, there's no there's no shortage of the view and the practice of procreating, like within Christianity or a variety of other religious beliefs. But in feminism, secularism in general, if they go that route where it's like, you really want a society which enslaves women to have kids, like that's actually going to be the result of your view, not ours. That's actually
it's even worse. Not just a result of, but when you say, when they say, do you want a society which enslaves women and turns them into breeding mares? And you're like, well, no, of course not. But the very technologies that you're banking on for liberation likely would be the technologies which phase women out completely from society. What need, in other words, if there's artificial wombs and men have the ability to reproduce absent women, why wouldn't they select in their reproduction cycle for more men?
Right. And that's not the same reversed, right? Because some people say, well, they figured out there's, what was the funny meme? Like there's sperm in bones or something, and they can impregnate themselves through a bone or something like that. They always say, well, we can freeze a bunch of sperm. Well, that still requires men. But let's say we gave you the optimal amount for sperm that granted you like 10,000 years or something like this. We're still back to how do you manage and defend and enforce society itself? A bunch of chicks, right? Like you're still back to, well, in the here now, right here and now, when you have a society that is bound by laws and bound by an order, a system, and when someone goes against that system, you actually need to intervene with brute force. What do who cares if we gave you all the sperm in the world?
But it also presupposes that men go along with it. So the thing is like, you can make the argument that, well, maybe men will just go along with this. But that's the thing, is that you have to make the argument that maybe they'll go along with it. Women can't make the argument that they just won't go along with it.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice, right? So they can't force you to go along with it, but you can force them to go along with it.
Right.
So the distinction in conversation is always distinct and different, right? It's like, maybe you could convince us to go along with this manless future, right? But we don't have to convince you of a female free future. We can just force it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of force, Enslaved by Truth, who's a huge fan of yours, Andrew, Byzantine society was very patriarchal, but also had very influential, powerful women, even female emperors. I would correct you on that, Enslaved by Truth. You could say influence, but to say powerful, I would disagree. Now, I know you're using powerful in a colloquial sense, but what we're actually talking about is those women had no power. Even if they had influence, the influence would be reliant on the actual force and the power of men. So what is influence? Sure, there's influence. Women can influence men, especially weak men. They can manipulate. They're good at manipulating. But in the end, what is influence without that budding brute force?
Well, this is one of the primary anti-suffragette arguments I read out last night, or the night before. I don't remember which, but night before was the anti-suffragettes said, look, it's not that we're nations of laws, right? It's that we're a nation of law enforcement. And enforcement is always going to come from men. Women can't enforce their own rights, right? That's the idea. It is true that you can have women who are in positions of authority via the consent of men. Nobody's disputing that. What is in dispute is that women can do anything about the conditionals for themselves without men, whereas men can do things about the conditionals for them without women.
Yes. Yeah, it's not
that's
even,
the distinction.
Even yeah.
Yeah, it's not. That's the distinction when you're talking about force doctrine. So nobody is even making the argument that there can't be powerful women or women in charge of things. Nobody's ever made, or that there can't be female soldiers, or that there can't be women who do this. But you always think that the exception somehow disproves the rule. Here, the exception proves the rule.
Right.
That everywhere in history, from the historic standard, not one time have women liberated themselves from anything. But the amount of times that men have liberated themselves from conditionals that they don't like is astronomical.
Right.
In
And then,
fact, it's not a some case use, it's an
yeah.
all case use.
Yeah, and even the
In all
opposite.
cases.
Even in the opposite, because we're always talking about liberation, like that's the good, like that's seen as the good. Liberate yourself from these from evil forces and all this stuff. But it's actually true also that it's men who are capable of enslaving people as well, which is just as powerful as being forcefully using force to liberate yourself. Those two are always kind of battling each other. Where women, they have neither. They can't liberate anyone, and they also can't enslave anyone. And
Correct.
yeah. So those
They
go
can't.
hand in
They
hand.
can't do. They can't do either of those things absent the force of men.
Yeah. So they can
So
whisper
it's
to
always
men. Yeah.
it's always an intrinsic reliance on
Yeah.
the force of men. Always a reliance on
Don't
the
you
force of
think that because historically also there's been women who use their seduction, show their boobies to make powerful men weak, and then, that could give them some influence of the arm of force that person has, whether it's historical or today. Is that why they're so easily sold on sexual liberation? Because they know that in a sense that is kind of their power. It's just that they're misusing it. Is that what's happening? Is like, because that's what I see. It. They're like misusing.
Not really. So historically, seduction is not one-sided. Like there are powerful queens who were seduced by men as well. So seduction is not just
it's not peculiar.
It's not. Yeah, it's not just exclusive to women.
Right.
It is a tool that they're generally better at because they can't appeal to force. But men seduce just as easily. Right.
Yeah.
They just seduce in different ways. They may not sexually seduce, but they seduce people with delusions of grandeur, with things like that. That's all seduction.
Yeah,
It's
Epstein was a seduction. What would you call the male seductress? A seducer. He was a seducer. Yeah, he was a seducer. And that actually might be more effective when the male seduces the male with the things of the world and whatever else their dreams are. Like it's always the guy saying, "Well, I'm gonna make your dreams come true." It's not really the women saying that to men. They're saying, "I'll make your fantasies come true," maybe, but they're never the men saying, "I'm gonna make your dreams of power and influence come true." Women aren't generally saying that to men.
No, not generally. So that's the what they're doing is they're doing a body exchange. That is the material of the world that they would use as a form of currency. Men may seduce with money or power or influence, and they also seduce women often with the idea of power, money, and influence. All you have to do is look at how many women have fucked Destiny, right?
Yeah, right.
They're definitely not doing that because they find him highly attractive and charismatic, right?
As opposed to the men who fuck Destiny.
Right. Rather, they are willing to do this in exchange for some type of power and influence and this kind of thing, right? But none of this really negates the fact that the appeal to force is always going to be through men, never through women.
Right.
And women will always necessarily have to appeal to men for force doctrine. Like there's just it's inescapable, and that's why society always be a patriarchy, because you necessarily will have to appeal to men of authority who wield force.
Right.
And I would argue that men who wield the maximum amount of force have the most authority. And our founders clearly agreed because they put the president of the United States in charge of the armed forces of the United States. So they were clearly saying his authority is backed up with the greatest use of force.
Do you think men who understand that force is primarily men, holding a feminist position, do you think they're in an actual performative contradiction, or it's not an actual performative contradiction to say, well, I'm holding force because that's a male thing, but I'm going to present this feminist egalitarian view? I just want to know, because if I use that in a debate and it's not an actual performative contradiction, I don't want to say that it is, but it is an interesting sort of dichotomy that people still assume force. There's always men in power, and they're like, we're going to use this power to make this like sort of like fake Sims version of society that's egalitarian, and it's all luxury, it's all decadence. It's like them being on a stage. They're making a stage for society to be like, oh, let's pretend that we're all equal, but really they know that's not the case. It's not equal at all.
Well, the agreed to terms will determine if it's a contradiction or not. If the agreed to terms are that patriarchy is sex plus authority,
Hmm.
right? So your sex is male and you're in positions of authority over men and women. Therefore, it's a patriarchy.
Hmm.
And I don't really know how you can define it absent that. A patriarch,
Hmm.
right, is
Hmm.
going to be authority plus male, right? That's going to be a patriarch. Like, what else could a patriarch be other than that? So if they determine that that is what a patriarch is, and then you say, well, you need to appeal to other patriarchs,
Hmm.
essentially, men
Yeah.
who have authority over force in order to do something about this, then that would be a contradiction because then you're just basically replacing one patriarchy with another patriarchy.
Maybe that's the whole Troons thing, is like they know the patriarchy thing is true, and so they just change the definition of man to include females, and the females are now a part of the patriarchy. So the next phase for them is to affirm the patriarchy, but just include females as men and just call them men and in power, right? I could see that happening in the. I mean, it's already happening in the military in a sense. Like you get these you know, transformers taking on these positions of office inside the military, and the females who are acting like men are, they're really like believing that they're in this like office of power as a man, but they're not a man. They're not really a man. They're not even close to a man, but they think it. They're kind of larping it.
Well, there's easier contradictions to put them in. Like, for instance, they'll tell you that, yeah, they completely and totally rely on men for protection, that is their role in society, because that one's pretty inescapable. But then also at the same time, they'll tell you how incompetent men are and how worthless they are.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? How
yeah,
they can't do anything. They can't fix a doorknob. They can't, you know what
right.
I mean? They can't
Mm-hmm.
do anything. They're totally incompetent. It's like, so at the same time, they're saying they're completely reliant on this sex. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, they're ridiculing it for being incompetent. And it's
Yeah,
like, well, then why would you rely on it for security if it's that incompetent? And it's
right.
like,
Yeah.
well, I guess maybe it's not as incompetent. You know what I mean? Like it
Mm-hmm.
just round and round and round it goes. But it's really hard for the feminist mind. It's very difficult to get over this arch. So early feminist writers talked about many, many, many times how to get through the idea of force doctrine, and they never could quite reconcile it. So now you have modern feminists who say things like, look, one of the reasons that we need to put all this shit in the food that people eat is because it lowers testosterone, right? We want testosterone lowered. We want men less aggressive, right? So, I mean, they literally will poison the well, not just
Mm-hmm.
proverbially, but physically if
Mm-hmm.
they can get away with it.
Yeah,
You
that
know what I
makes
mean?
sense. Try to equalize, because they never elevate woman to man. They have to lower man in all their different
Man,
ways to woman. Yeah.
yes, to woman. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they can't figure out, and that's why they all bank on this transhumanist future
Mm-hmm.
where the rise of the machines is going to somehow equalize men and women. And it's like, well, we've been in the industrial age for an awful long time, and this equalization in force has just not occurred.
Yeah.
And you should also be aware of the transhumanist future again, because the artificial womb then gives the patriarchy complete power.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
like what your bartering tool is gone.
Right. Yeah, that's wild to think
You know,
about. They think it's the opposite, right? But it's
right?
it's the worst for them. Then they have no. That's the thing that they're guarding. That's why a Christian view, with everything, including the virtue of virginity and chastity and protecting and valuing your body as a woman as the gates of procreation. That if that's gone, they're gonna all these dipshit feminists are gonna think they've scored, and it's just the complete opposite. I mean, that's.
Well, it's what's really funny is that you can easily make the argument that Christianity and even Islam fundamentally would be better for the procurement of women's rights than the transhumanist future of the machine that they envision, because
Mm-hmm.
both would be diametrically opposed to the artificial womb, right? Both views are going to say the artificial womb is bad and that birth should be done the natural way through men, through husbands and wives, right?
Hmm.
That actually procures more power for women in society to be viewed as matrons and be viewed as high status people than if reproduction is
Yeah.
completely replaced with artificial wombs. Then it just becomes transactional for their eggs, like it is for men with their sperm, right? It just becomes transactional at that point.
That's
So
a
then it's like, well, and men are going to select for what? They're going to select for more men. They're not,
right.
and we know this because
Mm.
we can look at every society where there was child scarceness. They always selected for men.
Yeah.
In China, they selected for men. Why? Well, because one, men are easier to raise, and two, you're taking out a lot of what societally men and women see as imperfections. So
Mm.
imperfection one is the emotional and hormonal regulation. Men just don't have the same problems with that women do.
Mm.
They just don't have it. It's not a thing which is
Except for
built into us.
that guy you debated on Pierce Morgan recently. I mean, he was a little.
Yeah, well, but even those people, they have to pretend. Like the second he saw, like the second that guy saw that I wasn't going to give any ground and I was going to make fun of him for being a crying bitch and shit
Mhm.
like that, he began shifting his attitude quickly.
He was like, "I got to be a man
Right?
now." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to be a man now, right? I can't. This pretending shit doesn't work,
Right.
right? So the thing is like even those people, the fact that he could rationalize that as quickly as he did, again, just shows that the more control over hormonal regulation. It's not that women can't be rational and logical; they can. It's not that women are stupid; they're not. It's just to say that between the strength differential and hormone regulation, right? You're probably, if you have to select for one child, you're probably going to select a male,
Hmm. Here's a good
right?
question.
Like you're getting a stronger, less hormonal version of a human being
Yeah.
that's easier to raise and is probably going to contribute to your family in a much more dynamic way. And if you could say, well, wait, you want daughters because they'll create a lot of heirs for you,
Hmm.
right? Which is also true. But if sex selection now is done by an artificial womb, you just don't need that, you know?
Yeah. This is a good question. Bobby C says for $5, if all political power is backed by male force, then is there an actual problem with female political power, or is that just preferential? Andrew, I'll let you answer that. And in fact, I have no problem whoring you out. If you guys, while we have them, want to ask Andrew a question, you can pay me money to ask him a question. But that
Which
question, I
is
think you
fair,
did
by the way.
answer, but you can answer it again. Is it an actual problem to have a female political power?
Yeah, well, I think a problem in the sense that it's an illusion, um, and that the backing of the power structure is again just men allowing this. But if men decide to not allow this, they don't have power anymore, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't collectively appeal to other women to enforce their power.
Yeah.
But men can collectively appeal to men to enforce theirs, and women can collectively appeal to men to enforce theirs. But either
Right.
way, you're still going to appeal to men, and so men ultimately are always going to be the driving authority in society, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, even if it was like demonstrated that like a woman, I don't know if this is a myth or not, but there was a dude named Howard Bloom who argued that women, there is some historical, I don't know if this is true or not, historical claims that women were often influential in sort of managing, at least, not leading necessarily, but like managing assassination squads and these things. Like I don't even know if that's true, but let's just say it is true.
Yeah.
What you're saying is
Well,
that
it's
it
very
wouldn't even matter
cool.
if they were really good at something. It's not obvious that they would be suddenly permitted just because they're good at it. It would still be at the mercy of the collective of men in this
And
context.
yeah, it's always going to be at the mercy of even a small collective of men. You know, the entire Revolutionary War was fought with a very small portion of the demographic of men.
Mm,
Very, very small. But that's all you need. Like if 1% of the male population wants something to happen,
yeah.
it's just a motherfucker to stop that thing from happening. You know what I mean? Because they can inflict the ultimate kind of thing, right? Which is death. They can just inflict it on you.
Hmm.
And so it's a thing that is not to be easily trifled with.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, the force appeal is always like, what? But can't you have female politicians at the consent of male collectives? And it's like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
of course you can. But I'd never forget who's really in charge.
Yeah. Was that a myth? I mean, you would know that better than me. Historically, were there actually
Oh
women?
no. Oh
Okay.
yeah, there was tons, especially like even the Japanese, the ninja who were assassins. They often had females in brothels who would be poisoners. So I mean, women traditionally have operated in assassin roles as
Mm.
poisoners and things like that, not as like they don't jump out of the shadows with a mask on and stab you. You
It's
know what I
because they're
mean?
passive,
They
right? They
poison.
could sneak in and
Yeah, they
they're
poison you.
elegant. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they poison you. Like they've traditionally been the king's poisoners. You
Yeah,
know,
or they can
they
get on top of you. I mean, if you wanted to have sex, if you were weak and you wanted to have sex with a woman and you didn't think ahead, it's quite possible she can kill you, during that.
Yeah, but they really didn't do that either. They really almost universally just poisoned. You
Hmm.
know, women were poisoners, and that's what they did. I mean, kings had poisoners, and yeah, they
And
often were women. That's for
and
sure.
now and they still do that. They just use words now, right?
Well, no, they actually still use literal poison too. I mean, there's tons of cases of women who poison their husbands. I mean,
That's
there
their
was
route.
one
Yeah.
yeah, there's one just recently where she was pouring bleach in his coffee, and it's like, so I mean, yeah, they still poison like
Right.
that hasn't gone away. In fact, there was a TikTok trend recently of a bunch of witches talking about a specific type of undetectable poison you could mix for the men in your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Wow.
like that. I mean, that's true for sure. That assassination protocols for poisoning, which was very
Mm.
commonplace. Remember, it was not an easy thing to detect. You know, we they didn't have autopsies the same way
Mm.
hundreds of years ago. So yeah, poisoning was part of the order of the day.
Yeah. Enslaved by Truth says, "Why is the queen so powerful in chess? Feminism checkmate?" Well, no, the game's over when the king dies, not when the queen dies. They are very useful though in the game. That's for sure. Um, someone said, now that I think of it, Bolthan says, a modern
Well,
woman just, go ahead.
hang on, but I want I want to kind of point something out here, right? Which is that if the queen is called the queen, do we assume every other chess piece is male?
That's a
Because if
good
that's
point.
the case, would you ever start that game with just the queen when I had all my pieces?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So the thing is like again, it would still appear that force doctrine is in the hands of the men on the board, doesn't it?
Even in chess. Um,
Even in chess.
Let me see. Someone says we should bring back duels. A woman gets yappy, their father and husband get challenged, and you have it out. Yeah, I think you could still do duels even without death, and it would be pretty entertaining. Um, what's this person say? For woke feminists and progressives who try to shame who you voted for in the election, they need to remember is Jesus is king, I think you said. Unfortunately, my super chats don't show. Glad to see you back. Tan Bob, hope the vacation was great. It was, yeah, it was excellent. Bolfan says, now that I think of it, a modern woman just can't bring themselves to say women ought to have children. It's insane. Yeah,
They
we're
can't.
at that
Yeah,
we're
they
at that point.
look. They can't put this on themselves. Well, progressive women can't. So Christian women will often say it's a duty. Um, it's a duty to bear children, but the sewing circle progressive
They can't do it.
feminist
Yeah.
Christians, what they will say is that they have a duty if they choose,
Yeah,
right?
it's all
They have a
about that.
duty if they
Yeah.
choose.
Hmm.
So it always just becomes there is no duty. And so if they want it defined, they're like, so what does that mean? That women should just be popping out as many babies as possible for as many minutes? And you just be like, no, of course not. It's ridiculous. We're just saying that society should be moving in such a way where this as a duty to the nation and to create better families and things like this should be prioritized at the top of how we we lay down our ethics to the public. Now you can call that propaganda,
Hell yeah,
right?
propaganda.
Because you can call that propaganda if you want to, but the truth is like you're not saying that women must do this,
Mhm.
right? You're just saying that this is a duty which falls squarely on them, and that for the sake of society, they probably should be moving their themselves towards the idea of family and procreation. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
That's the only claim that Christians are trying to push forward. And it's like, it's so heavily resisted, right? It shows you, just like the early feminist writers who said, if women can stay at home and not work and not incur debt, they'll do that.
Yes.
We have to we have to liberate them against their own will
Right.
because their lives are way too comfortable.
Right. Yeah, and you've made this argument before that that a society that gears toward that as the duties for both men and women to concentrate on that, it actually produces a society that then sort of respects the woman and holds them in high regard, ironically,
The
higher
highest,
regard than the
they're
feminists.
held in the highest
Yeah, the
regard,
highest.
in fact.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The matrons are held in the highest regard, right? Women can get, I mean, talk about getting away with almost whatever you want. If you're in a society where where female virtue is the thing which is pushed towards, and women, like, let's say you went back to the 40s or 50s where it was like 90% of women who were getting married, don't quote that stat, but it's something,
Yeah.
it's ridiculously high, were chaste, intact virgins, things like this, right? It seems that the amount of respect inside of society which was given to them was immense. Men were literally putting their jacket down so they didn't have to put their feet in a puddle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were, they basically, their lives were handed to them on a bit of a silver platter. And I don't even have an issue with that. But I have an issue with it if the idea of the achieved virtue isn't there. And then you put the same duties on me that you yourself now no longer have. Fuck that.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you actually achieve a higher status in societies where women are viewed as having the highest function of reproduction. They're extremely valued, and the matrons are well taken care of too.
Right, and they're not forced into the workforce and take on all the debt. And now they're like, well, I'm going to work really hard and then get out of this work system and live this cushy life. And you're like, that's what we were offering you to begin with. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's like really, you think that women had less respect? I mean, when they walked into rooms, the men stood up.
Mm-hmm.
They tipped their hats to him. They took their hats off indoors, a sign of respect to him, so they didn't look like a shady character.
Yeah.
Like the world was entailed around men saying, okay, women deserve to be elevated matrons in society, and they deserve to be well respected, well taken care of. And men were punished if they didn't take care of their families. They were arrested and jailed.
Yeah,
it was illegal. It was a crime. It was a crime.
Even beyond the jailed, like even the social shame of it. We know social shame works, right? The leftists and the progressive view has sort of taken it, though. They've monopolized the social shame, and the soft sewing circle Christians stopped shaming people, and that was a big misstep in the West, I think, giving the shame tool over to the baseless degenerate people, and then being like, well, we don't use that tactic. It's like, oh, well, that's a mistake, big mistake.
Well, it's mostly just because they want to be viewed as authorities, and they can't be viewed as an authority if you say things like, well, you're not really supposed to be teaching, and you're really supposed to be shutting up, and you're really supposed to be keeping your faith works at church, right? You're not really supposed to be doing any of this stuff that you're doing, but then they wouldn't have a position of authority. So what they do is they say, well, I've bought a new reputation with Christianity, and I'm now in a position of teaching authority over men. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Fuck off. Screw you. That's not going to happen. And so, of course, they become irate because what are you doing? You're taking away their authority, right? They don't have any authority. So
Yeah. Justin Henley
So of
says
course,
Muhammad was poisoned by a woman. Shame. That's funny. Jordan Flores, $50. Thank you so much. That's very generous. Hey, Andrew, were you intimidated by how many times the soy said he cried per week? Andrew's just laughing through that whole segment. Did it feel like he one-upped you in the tier department?
So was Piers.
Yeah.
Piers was laughing his ass off too when I put my hand up and like made the crybaby, thing. Piers couldn't help it. He just burst out laughing.
The dude was like, I cried last week.
Yeah, well, you can't help it, right? When these guys, when they tell you things which are so clearly antithetical to your own innate being, you know what I mean? Obviously, men crying often is not a thing which they should be doing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it shows that you're enslaved to your passions. You're a slave to your own passions.
No discipline.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, there could be cases where there are men who deal with so much trauma. Like, I would guess that priests probably cry a lot. You know what I mean? But they have to hear the confessions of like the most evil shit on planet Earth from human beings that then they need to guide towards the light. That's like,
yeah,
I could see them crying more than the average man. You know what I mean? But you really shouldn't. It's really not a good precedent to be telling men that they should cry or fall to pieces or things like that. And it also presents a vulnerability which can be exploited. And I've often thought that the primary reason that women at higher institutional levels make these talking points the demand that men become more emotional, they cry more, and they open up more is because their weapon of choice is slander, and they can't slander you if they don't know anything.
Right. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? So in a way, you're opening yourself up by talking to them to their primary weapon, which is dirt on you or information.
Yeah, that's interesting that they sort of take over and weaponize what is ultimately what's confession. And I've seen this happen even in the standard sphere of influence in social media, is that people are now doing their confession, so to speak, to the public, and the public is their sort of like faux congregation or there's no authority there. There's nothing. It's not religious. It's not Christian, but they still do it, and it definitely has been exploited. That's why there's like these apology tours. There's the repentance tour. It's similar where they do the secular repentance where they say sorry. Dean Withers. Oh, I said the bad thing, and I hope I can redeem myself in the eyes of the masses. And they're just doing a faux church, right? They're just doing a faux.
Yeah. The whole thing is essentially it's public. Basically, the whole public shaming tour is designed as a rigorous gauntlet for cleansing the soul.
Right.
It is a pseudo-religious art. Right. This will cleanse you. Right. After we have sufficiently demeaned you for what you did, now you can be put back in after your repentance into the leadership role that you so desperately want, right? And that's what it is. And they'll do it. I mean, they do it time and time and time again. And you got to kind of hand it to Destiny a little bit, because he doesn't do that. He's like, nah, fuck you.
Yeah.
So I mean, at least get there's a little bit of respect that I have to kind of tip my hat on there.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it is. But I've always thought that a lot of the ideas which come from the top-down NGO, non-government organization, the various feminist institutions which exist, that kind of give marching orders to psychologists and psychological institutions, is this idea of men opening up and being vulnerable and things like that.
Yeah. Actually
puts them at the mercy of slander and puts them at the mercy of revenge, because women can't just get mad at you and beat you up, right? So their weapon of choice for assaulting you is to do reputational damage, slander, things like this. Like, you can watch the Sewing Circle Christians do this every single time I do an event anywhere. You'll see dozens of the Sewing Circle Christians attempting just that, right? How much slander and how much can we try to hit this guy with, right? Because it's their only form of attack.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much worse it would be if the females were the priests hearing the confessions, how much worse that would be. It would be like it would be like TMZ. It would be like a gossip channel.
But in a way, they are, right? I
Right,
mean,
they're
this is
already
what's
doing it.
happening with psychologists, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're hearing the confession,
Right.
and then they're giving you various techniques in which to cope with this and cope with that. But women have become so enamored with psychology. I mean, so enamored with psychology that at this point they all think they are psychologists. I mean, they all just seem to think that they're psychologists. You know, they'll literally sit there and try to psychoanalyze you. But yeah, I've often thought that one of the main reasons is because it's a very powerful technique for control for women to be able to kind of verbally slam you with information that you open up to them. So in a way, you're kind of fucking yourself over by doing it, right?
Yeah, definitely stepping in your own shit. Wouldn't you say that the females who are abandoning their duty to procreate also take those positions to sort of still use their nature of nurturing and being motherly, but they're just misplacing the use of the value in that sense? They're just like perverting their motherly duties and just assigning it to these like broken man babies, and even though they're using it for manipulation, there's still isn't it true that there's still something that they're following that's actually good in them? They're just directing it at the wrong place.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, it could be
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. I've seen the clips. Yeah, maybe not. Bobby C says for $5, the queen's freedom of movement in the chess is because she's a hoe in the streets. That could be the case. Jeff Burrows says $5. Thank you so much. Please ask Andrew and answer yourself if you could push a button and magically one aspect of society today would change instantly. What would you pick to change it with the hit of a button? Think about that.
Oh man. So I can only change one thing. So the point of the question is to try to reduce down to what I think is maybe the most valuable, even though I don't think that way. I think that there's like a multitude of things which are really valuable to push the button for. So I guess with immediate concerns, if I could push a button, I would push a button which eliminated all non-family based propaganda from the government. That's what I would do.
That's good.
So I think that would correct, not all the social issues, but it would correct a great deal of social issues. Just not having any antinatalist or any alternative family propaganda from the government level down, I think would be just like a fucking massive head start in this kind of bleak future we look at.
Yeah, mine's similar. It would be more expansive to like, if I could hit the button, it would eliminate everything myself, I deemed indecent in public, including propaganda from whether it's the government or companies like on billboards and shit. I would do it essentially a Jim Bob authoritative blur out of all the things that I find disgusting.
Trying to one-up me, boy? You trying to one-up me here, boy?
Well, I mean, I just want to go I really want to just go for the most power, right? But no, I actually have a question about your answer. Why is it you said government and not like a company? Wouldn't you want to push back on, let's say, a company billboard propaganda? Would you shut that? I would shut that down if it was like so egregious and nefarious. I would take it down.
Well, I think that's kind of entailed in government propaganda. So the thing is like if the government itself is propagating these ideas, then they have NGOs behind it, which are assisting with the government doing this. Those NGOs give marching orders to companies anyway.
Right, the revolving door, those partnerships. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tenublet $5 says women already want to be resubjugated. They don't want to work and want to be taken care of. The downside is they also want to whore around. Yeah, I just find that so bizarre, Tenublet, is that Christianity is offering them a vision of what they already want, and they're saying, no, I don't want that, but I still want that. You're like, they're just
Well,
confused.
that's what the sexual revolution was about. You touched on it earlier, but
Yeah.
the sexual revolution was about keeping privilege for women intact while simultaneously taking away any sort of criticism for actions. So any accountability for actions. So the idea is just like, it shouldn't matter who I sleep with.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't matter, how many partners I've had. It shouldn't matter that I don't have sex when I'm waiting for marriage. I should not be criticized for these things. But I should still be treated as the vulnerable sex, and I should still be given, or treated with decency and treated, X way, like all other women are treated, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so it was just a way of, it was like a women's version of the gay rights movement.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be criticized for doing this alternative lifestyle, unnatural, horrible fucking thing that's damaging to society because, I can't help it. It's just the way I am. It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, the way you are sucks. So,
It was so effective,
maybe,
though. Like, how was it so effective? Do you think there was? Obviously this isn't a one answer question.
It wasn't that effective at first. I mean, it took a long time for it to really, take hold of the human psyche. I mean, even when I was a kid, the skanks in school and shit like that were pretty frowned on.
Yeah,
I mean,
still.
they're
Yeah.
pretty frowned upon, and we were, they were getting made fun of and shit like that, and it was not. They didn't have an easy time of it.
Yeah.
But in modernity now, I was watching a video by Pearl, so I don't know if these stats are accurate, but they are terrifying, right? She was saying basically all of the Zoomers who are in the reproductive age bracket, about 10% of them are on OnlyFans.
Yeah, I saw that stat too, and it's hard to tell. Like, there are people on OnlyFans who don't do pornography and they just use it how they do. Or whatever,
well, very, very few don't though. So it's like, if it's like 1 in 25,000 who doesn't, I don't think it's going to adjust that stat too much, and I don't think that the women in that age bracket are going on there to do a cooking show.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Contraception meme TV. Yeah, I would add that. I was going to say just general technology. You said, well, it didn't work. It took a while for this to sort of set in. And I was trying to think of all the variables. I think contraception, the ability to just have sex, and this goes for men and women as far as in contrast to their duties, is if a man could have sex and not have to deal with being a father, if a woman could have sex and not have to deal with being pregnant and being a mother, it's like this unspoken degenerate agreement that's just become the norm that people are just sort of like born into. They inherit. Our children, unfortunately, are basically born into a system where that is kind of the norm, where it's like, well, I was going to avoid all this other stuff. Well, if the technology allows you to have endless sex and there's no social shame, in fact, it's celebrated. So you have multiple things happening at once. I think the shame tactic might be a better approach.
The propaganda is the big one, I think.
Yeah, that's why I think. Yeah.
While I agree that the contraception enables the activity, right? I think that it's the propaganda in media, especially, and from the government down, which is the alternative. Basically, it's the pushing of the alternative family that was the major thing which enabled the promiscuous behavior. Is that like, look, alternative families are just as viable and good as the cross-generational family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The nuclear family itself isn't the best dynamic. The nuclear family is, you could say it's the building block of society, but it's really not. It's a cross-generational family. It's the idea of cousins and uncles and aunts and, fathers and sons who all are in kind of a regional demographic area as a support network for each other. You know what I mean?
That's why the Mormons are so powerful.
That's it's why Asians are too.
Asians, yeah.
It's why Asians are, they try to put them in the category of basically white privilege now, because Asians will come here and they'll rent a room, that's no bigger than probably your son's bedroom, and 6 of them will sleep in it. They'll all get jobs. They'll pull all of their money together. They'll buy a restaurant. They'll stay in that room, and then they'll one by one start buying houses for each person there, pulling their money.
Yeah.
And suddenly they have cross-generational wealth, and then they take advantage of every social and educational system which is available. Like they do these things the right way. And so, the idea there is that the building block for them for life is the family and the extended family, and they go to great lengths to keep their families intact. And what do you have? You have patriarchs in those families.
Yeah, and that generational thing, as you pointed out, a lot of people, who even my own listeners and yours, like this idea that what you're saying is it doesn't go without some sacrifice, like you said. Like you can't just do the cross-generational thing sometimes, especially today, without doing something similar to what you just described, where you have to sacrifice maybe the size of your house, and you have to manage things in a different way if you want to produce that kind of effect. It's not just some amenity that you can choose to have, like add it to your Amazon cart. It's actually quite, that's why you say, like when someone challenges you and say, oh, you have this idea of like, the Symphonia and this kind of like beautiful view of an Orthodox society. And you admittedly say, well, this is like, how many generations am I talking about? I'm not deluded to think that this is something that's a push button result, some customized thing you can order. This takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You touch on the biggest factor here, right? Which is that happiness has become a drug. Mm-hmm. And the left and progressives are the biggest drug pusher, right? Do what makes you happy. This is probably the most common trope in the West, are the words, do what makes you happy. Or you'll hear, does this make you happy? Are you happy?
Yeah.
Is this, you know what I mean? As long as you're happy,
right?
It's a huge drug which is pushed on people, and it's like, it used to be the case, at least historically, people are like, well, one day when I'm dead, I'll be happy, right? because the conditions of life were pretty harsh, right? The thing is, though, there were still plenty of happy people. Don't get me wrong. I'm just pointing out that it wasn't assigned as a drug like it is now. You know what I mean? Do you have your happiness pills? Are you happy enough? Oh, if you're not happy, then there's a problem.
Right.
And it's if you're not happy, right, that doesn't mean that there's a problem.
No.
You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of times that you have to do tasks that don't make you happy, which are actually fixing problems.
Right.
Like I had a windstorm that came through and knocked down a tree, and I have to go out there soon with a chainsaw and cut this thing up. That does not make me happy.
Yeah, and you still have to do it, even if it didn't. Yeah, even if it didn't. Yeah. That's why the duty thing is so brutal, isn't it? Like to all these views, it's just to me, it's the best possible angle of attack in these debates. Is like, if you go to duties, you realize that you can give one example of doing something that you ought to do. That's the best thing to do, even from their system, is the most moral thing to do, even though they don't even have a moral foundation. And yet it's completely antithetical to their immediate happiness. Like they can't possibly defend the happiness notion. And they do it all the time. Look at Finland's the happiest. They do all these studies or whatever. And we're going, yeah, that's not even a metric that we care about. Like that's not ultimately what's going to keep a society going, is whether or not everybody's, quote, happy. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you could. Why don't we just issue fucking people lithium?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That would make them happy.
Yeah.
Like that would make them happy. But that's what I mean is like, the idea of this is a drug. It's a drug. You know what I mean? We need to constantly be happy.
Yeah.
We need to be engaged in happy things. I want to be happy. And it's like, look, the human state and condition requires a lot of fucking suffering.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
More suffering than happiness. And in fact, in order to achieve some things which make you happy, like if you want to have a beach body or some shit like that, that's a lot of suffering, man. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of suffering. So what do? They find shortcuts for this. So like, take Ozempic, take this weight loss pill, take this, take that. These will give you shortcuts so that you can continue with the happiness protocol.
Yep.
Right. and still get this is try to achieve this result that you want. And it's like, no, the truth is that you don't end up achieving the result that you want, and you can't really cut corners too much in the suffering aspect
Mm.
when it comes to achieving goals if you want to actually achieve them.
Yeah, the irony there is that even shortcutting the goals doesn't even give you what you call happiness anyway. Even if we granted, okay, fine, go be happy. Notice how when you shortcut or do anything shortcutted and you don't earn the thing, like whenever we do this, some people love doing this, but like that's not at least fulfilling when you jump the brook of the hard work. It just doesn't pay off anyway.
Yeah,
But
well, you can even think of this. I've explained this to adamant video game players the same way. Like, look, when you're playing a game with somebody else and they want to play it on easy mode, what is it that you say? Like, you get upset, right?
hmm
It takes all the challenge out of the game, and so
right,
then any sense of accomplishment you have when you beat it, you know that you didn't beat the real game,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You beat something else.
yeah.
You beat a dumbed down, watered down version of this thing.
Do you
And
think?
so it's you can't be proud of mediocrity, right?
Do you
But
think
if
that's
you beat
how?
it on extreme mode, it's like then you get that dopamine hit of like, man, I did something here.
Do you think that's how same-sex couples, I'll put in quotes, couples feel when they buy a kid?
Well, I think that the most of the conditional of that is just the be happy, right?
hmm
But they fall into a trap that a lot of women fall into, which is the idea of like, and this used to be more common than it is now, but if we just have a baby, then I'll be happy. And
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
That doesn't work
no,
either way.
that's actually your brain. Your brain is tricking you because it
hmm
wants you to have a baby. That's true. And it's telling you you're going to be happy, but it's actually probably going to increase your suffering drastically,
hmm
you know?
Yeah.
But through that suffering, most women seem to be very placated. Like they'll go through the suffering and this and that. And then it does actually make them happy when they have a child there, right? They're like,
hmm
wow, this is great. But that required a lot of suffering, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone who's a parent
But it
knows
doesn't.
whether, yeah,
Yeah,
it,
but it
it's,
doesn't fix the problems though, which were making you unhappy, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
It doesn't fix
Yeah.
any of the external problems, just like with homosexuals, them going, well, we're pretty miserable that we can't have kids,
hmm
right? Them going and adopting kids does not ultimately end up um, getting rid of the external problem, which is the fact that they have gay sex. That's not going away, so that part of the misery just stays intact, right?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't fulfill it. FB asked a good question, 499. Thank you so much. When was the last time propaganda was used for good? I'm trying to
Well,
think of.
propaganda has a negative connotation to it anyway. So
Yeah, it
like
does. Yeah.
propaganda, the definitionally is a negative thing. The reason I use the word is because people understand immediately what it means,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They just understand immediately that you're talking about promotion of values and
hmm
certain things in order to adjust society the way that you want to. Now, propaganda traditionally has been used for patriotism. That's where superheroes came from. That's
Yeah.
where the idea of honor in the military came from. You know what I mean? When you think about honor in the military, it's actually kind of stupid, right? So the idea here is like you're going to go stab 18-year-old kids in the face,
hmm
and there's some kind of honor in that,
Yeah.
right? But the truth is like in order to have this protector class, you're going to have to give them a sufficient amount of honor that comes with the fact that they have this kind of really brutal, dirty job to do
hmm
that is necessary, right? It's kind of repugnant, but
Yeah.
totally necessary. So the trade-off there is like there's a lot of honor in the uniform, right? There's a
Right.
lot of honor. There's a lot of
Mm.
prestige. There's a lot of things which come with that to offset kind of the ugliness of the things that you have to do when you're in it.
Right.
So, ultimately, I think that propaganda for patriotism is really good. But you can also have patriotism propaganda be geared towards the family unit as well.
hmm
The same way that you had Rosie the Riveter as a propaganda for women to put screws in packs so that we could fight a war,
Yeah.
right? You can easily have propaganda the other way that just shows women in
Yeah.
kind of family functioning units and things like this, um, kind of enjoying life, and you can have the kind of pro propaganda say things like honor women in society, especially those with families. You can do
Mm.
things like that, and man, it would really assist with turning the tide. So, when's the last time it was used for good purposes? Maybe Vietnam War, but not really even then.
Yeah. Like at a mass level, obviously we see clips, like there are more and more clips of like pro women, pro family, pro mother, pro father things, but on a mass scale, yeah, I can't even tell you, I can't even give you a single example of
Yeah,
it at the mass scale.
it really needs to be top down. Like it really, it doesn't work that well bottom up.
Yeah.
That's why people who start countercultural revolutions from the bottom up, the very first thing they do is try to seize power or
Mm.
get into powerful positions because they understand how much better it worked from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
When you seize the institutions, um, it gives you a huge amount of leeway and power and authority to enforce these types of views.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say maybe I was just about to say, oh, well, maybe we should, do a campaign for massive proliferation of like AI, family-based AI, but then you're just gonna end up with weird pictures of like mothers without thumbs and shit, like weird faces and stuff. It's gonna be counterintuitive because the ability
yeah,
to,
well, I
yeah,
mean, there's like a really easy thing to point to. There used to be a billboard on a road I would drive down that had a shotgun on it that I didn't particularly care for, right? But it was like an advertisement for this type of shotgun, and it was a Mossberg variant, so I didn't care about it. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
But I saw this billboard so many times, right? I was in a gun shop and saw one, and I was like, well, I'll just pick one up, right? And I knew right then and there that I was only picking one up because I had seen this thing like 8,000 times on this billboard driving by it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, it worked. It worked on me, right? Even though I consciously knew that that was the case, it still worked on me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why wouldn't that work if the billboard showed something to aspire to,
I think
you
it,
know?
yeah, I think that's a great idea. However that could happen, I think we're in the position where it could happen, the top-down way, like you said, mass concentrated effort of propaganda for family, directed toward mothers too. I mean, men need it too a little bit, especially these flailing men that are feminists essentially, who take this Homer Simpson, Al Bundy approach we talked about a couple years ago, Andrew. That's been a propaganda machine against men. Is like, man is the dumb guy. He can't do shit around the house. He's stupid. He's lazy. He's
Well,
clumsy.
you hear feminists complain about this to this day, and I've never seen the evidence of this, right? But I hear them all the time talk about how, having my husband around, it's like having another kid.
Mm,
It's like, I don't ever see that in reality. What I see in reality is the opposite. It's almost like the husband has another kid. He's like, oh my God, another emotional breakdown. Oh my God, another fucking hormonal rage fucking, thing going on. Oh my God, you have to comfort you. You're crying again about some nonsense. You know what
mm,
I mean? Oh, like I never, I got 15 things accomplished on this honey-do list that you
mm,
had, but the last two things, you're going to bitch about those for the next 2 weeks. You're like a petulant, spoiled child. Like
mm,
my experience has been exactly the opposite inside of most families. It's never that the man is some bumbling idiot,
mm,
and it's like the woman has another kid because she has to do the fucking laundry. It's the opposite,
mm.
right? I see the man having to overly compensate all often, for women's lack of emotional regulation.
Yeah, you
And it's
gotta.
like,
Mm, mm,
I often tell women this, and this is something which they all seem to be able to relate to when I ask about like irrational fears. Have you ever woke up from a dead sleep, right? Had a dream that your guy was cheating on you or doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, and woke him up because you wanted to talk to him about it,
mm.
right? This is such a common thing for couples that's not talked about, where a woman will have an irrational fear, wake their husband up from a dead sleep in order to complain about this irrational fear, right? Well, how's that not the equivalent of a fucking kid coming into your room, a
Had a
5-year-old, and
nightmare.
going,
Yeah.
Dad, I had a bad dream.
He had a monster.
I had a bad dream. You know what I mean? The monster's under my bed, blah, 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 blah. Now you can imagine if a man woke a woman up and dead shaked her awake and was like, "Hey, I just had this bad dream," she'd be like, "What the? She go to sleep, you fucking retard!" Right?
That's funny. You're like, yeah, that would be a terror. And we make an exception for the woman, right? We don't go.
Yeah, we make.
We don't say act like a man. We don't say, oh, what are you doing, honey? Act like a man, right?
No, we make the exception. It's like, but I can point to so many instances like this of infantile behavior from women, completely infantile behavior, you know, and this is just supposed to be accepted, you know what I mean? But somehow they're you know, assisting in raising their man babies, you know what I mean? This is their narrative, and they say the most ridiculous shit, you know what I mean? They're like, men don't even know how to load a dishwasher. I'm like, yeah, they know how to load dishwashers. What are you talking about? And you know what else? They load them correctly. You know, like there's an actual correct way to load them, and they actually do it the right way. You know, I've heard them say ridiculous things. Men don't know how to use a washer and dryer. Or men don't know how to iron their clothes. It's like, in fact, I've met more men who know how to iron their clothes than I have met women who know how to iron clothes. Did you know that?
I prefer ironing my clothes. I could care less how the dishwasher is loaded, so I'm probably guilty of, quote, loading it improperly, because I just am like, fucking put it in there, it's gonna wash somehow. Wash it. I actually end up washing my dishes like directly.
Then that's probably still a righter way. But I'm just pointing out, like, that, you know, they act like women act like infants and children constantly, and then at the same time, feminists pretend that you know, men are really just being very infantile. I mean, they won't come home and do all the housework chores as well as the entire burden that they have on them for everything else. That's ridiculous. It's like, that's the most infantile way to view, and selfish, by the way, to view a family dynamic anyway. And it's like, you know, we have to assuage irrational fears in women constantly, like nonstop, all the time. This is a very common thing which happens inside of couples relationships, where women will develop irrational fears or already have irrational fears, and they want them to be addressed and placated constantly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, go ahead.
My tech for $5 asked, what happened with the boxing match between Not So Erudite's husband and Andrew? Is there training for a fight? I'm sure that's gonna, not with him, but I mean, eventually, I mean, maybe he'll fight somebody.
Yeah, we'll do a creator fight, you know what I mean? But, you know, maybe I'll do something with somebody who has more clout. I don't need to lower myself.
No, yeah. You know, there's got to be someone in there.
Yeah, how about somebody who has some sufficient enough clout to do one? But anyway,
Jordan says, for $50, thank you so much for that. Tommy Lauren disagrees, in quotes. That's really funny.
Yeah, Tommy Lauren, she's going to tell you exactly what a real man is. But you point out what a real woman should do, and you're a fucking misogynist, right?
Right.
This is the way it works all the time. You're not a real man. What a real man does is capitulate to my fucking needs. And you're like, nah, I think what a real woman is a woman of great virtue who's attempting to achieve feminine virtues, which then men and women will both respect. I mean, you just want to tell women what to do with their bodies. Like, okay, well, you're not doing that, though, by telling me that what a real man is somebody who protects you and provides for you.
Yeah, I find
that's
very common with that covert feminist view, is that they make fun of the women, the progressives, who say you just want to, you know, they'll tell Tommy Lauren or whatever her name is that she just wants to control women's bodies, and she's like, that's absurd. But what you're saying is that even she has a version of that. It's just not about abortion. It's about something else. It's like another step away from it.
Yeah, it's controlling men's bodies.
Right.
Like the whole idea of a draft is controlling men's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's pretty upfront about it. You know, the fact of the matter is that if you join the military, you become a GI, government issued. You become temporarily owned
Mm,
by the United States government. If you
mm.
hurt yourself on purpose, you get brought up on charges for destruction of government property. Not a joke, you
Wow.
know? It's like I can't think of a thing where your body is owned more than that.
Yeah, and it's like yeah, that's like death resulting in
You're
death, and
told,
yeah.
yeah, you're told what you can eat. You're told where you can stand. You're told where you're going to go today. You're told exactly what you need to do at all times. You're completely controlled. And
Uh,
it's like, but that's your duty. That's your duty, though.
no, yeah, your
It's
duty
like,
is to
right.
do it. Right. Yeah. Bobby C
Yeah.
$5 says one thing I never understood is why the man sleeps on the couch when the wife is mad, or he's in the doghouse. Quote. Yeah, that seems to be a meme that just sort of developed as well, where you're in trouble. Well, usually, it's because you did something, quote, wrong or something like that. But it is interesting that developed where the man is in the doghouse. But we would never do that. Like if the wife did something equally wrong, right? We're not talking about like, cheating or something crazy, just like something, said something wrong. Imagine we just kick him,
Well,
kick him on the couch.
the development of that actually was a dunk on women, not on men. The
Mm.
idea is like, I'd rather sleep in the fucking doghouse than be
Oh,
anywhere near
that's
this chick right
interesting. Oh, that makes sense. That actually makes more
right? I'd
sense.
rather I'd rather be in the fucking doghouse sharing it with the dog than be in the house with this woman right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be sleeping on the couch than be in a room with you right now. You know what I mean? It was initially it was to dunk on women. You know what I mean? But what it became is like the weaponization of the meme went
Mm-hmm.
went the opposite direction. They're like, you can just go sleep on the couch. You know,
Interesting.
you know, you can
Yeah.
just go sleep on the couch.
Mm-hmm. President Sundowner, a member for 24 months. That's awesome. Thanks for your support. A real leader only gives directions. I already agree with Becky. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
Alter Void $5. Need to make the wife sleep in the kitchen. That's funny. Yeah, that would be the equivalent. You sleep in the kitchen. Is there anyone who, while we have him, wanted to counter feminism or counter our rejection of a feminism, being that we do have a Discord now? You're welcome. Opposition is welcome if you'd like. If not, I'll just keep responding to super chats and cover anything else going on here.
Yeah, fuck these people. Keep responding to super chats, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, fuck these people.
There's always a hater or something here. I don't get as many as you, but I always have to reach out and be like, hey, are there any haters? My husband tells me to get in the shed. That's really funny. Get in the shed. Put the wife in the litter box. It's funny. So yeah, and as far as the other guy, he just looks like a regular commentator dude who's probably just not prepared. He doesn't look like he debates, so I'm not even gonna bother looking at him. Ken Harbo, no idea. Whatever. Any other questions for Andrew while he's here? Y'all don't like feminism? Why do you hate women, Mr. Westford? Yeah. Why do you hate women? I don't
Yeah,
think
right.
what's her name
Yeah.
takes that approach. She's not that dramatic, is she? Not so erudite. She's a little more nuanced than that.
Well, the thing is erudite's going to massively underestimate you.
Mm.
Okay, massively underestimate you. So these people never are well equipped because they're so fucking arrogant. They always think that they just always have the tenable position and you're wrong, right?
Mm.
And inside of their various groups, it's really funny. I always say never underestimate leftists, right? And their groups are always like, well, conservatives are just dumb. You don't even have to really contend with them. You know what I mean? And so these people just get fucking mangled in these debates. And they're like, I don't know why. It's like, well, you don't even really attempt to know your opponent's positions and why they think the way they do. And they've spent hours and days and weeks and months, and in my case, years, studying the opposition to make sure I understood not just what they believe, but why they believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're on. Yeah, that and especially the specific quote lowercase Christian position she's taking. I'm sure she's not even pushed on it enough, absent her engagement with you and maybe some other people associated with your position and your arguments. It's like she probably doesn't have to defend it much. I would
Well,
assume.
they always think that, and this has traditionally been the case, right? I mean, I guess you say traditionally in a very loose aspect, because like the red pill manosphere content creator sphere is a reasonably new thing, right? Reasonably new. It's not to say it's not like a decade plus old, but that's still reasonably new. And it has been the case that these guys are really good at kind of stats and things like this, but not very good at debating their actual positions and debating on issues and things like that. And when kind of the Christians entered into the sphere and started kicking the shit out of everybody, they now have kind of in some ways mouthpieces which are able to destroy feminist views much better than they can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, in this way, the leftist women have had kind of an easy time of it for a while, going and wrecking the red pill content creators or whatever. But then they run into this other aspect of what they would consider the manosphere, which is people have grounded epistemology, and they just get fucking wrecked, and they don't know what to do about it, and they don't have any defense against it, and it really has turned the tide aside. I mean, that whole sphere really needed guys like us in a big way. It really did.
Yeah, because even their right wingers, if they're arguing with other kind of liberals, classical liberals, these covert feminists and the men, the Ben Shapiro's and all of these people who hold really a classical liberal approach to most things, they're very hesitant to explore a little more rigorous, authoritative positions. And so they're used to arguing with other liberals. They just happen to be sort of like conservative liberals. And so they grant each other equality in egalitarianism, generally speaking. So what's the debate ultimately about? It kind of makes sense that these types on the left, the progressives, the not so erudite and company, they're mostly used to arguing against the same position just on the right side. It's like our liberalism is better than your liberalism, and we're doing something different. We're saying, no, we're not even going to grant you that. So,
Yeah, we're just saying that it's an unmitigated disaster, and that the society that we postulate is better, even if it limits these things you consider to be valuable. Right. And you need to tell us why that's not the case, and they can't.
Right.
And so I mean, ultimately, it suffered from a huge amount of degeneracy, that whole space, because of pickup artists and other people. Now, there's plenty of people who are in kind of that red pill content creator space who aren't degenerates, but there's an awful lot who are. And so, like, it really did need the reinvigoration of people who understood the views and could reconcile them properly to try to get across what these guys were really trying to say.
Yeah.
And so, these kind of female champions who have been trying to go around and smash everybody, on this, are now just getting fucking mangled left and right, and they're reeling. They don't exactly know how to deal with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Betwixt says $5 for Andrew. Does James from MDD hate the fact that unintentionally launched your career into orbit with the Dillahunty situation? He's always is short with you. No, I think it's the opposite, but you can answer that. I think he's happy that he did that.
He wasn't at the time. I don't think that the Dillahunty debate launched my career into orbit. I think I was already on the incline, and if that debate had never happened, I would still have ended up essentially where I'm at. But I don't know. I don't know if James is happy or not happy about it or what. For a long time, I was, he says I wasn't, but I was basically blacklisted from MDD. I mean, I don't know what else to call it when they were calling you for, a debate or two a month, and then they just stop altogether, right?
Yeah. I think what happened, he realized the value, though. Ultimately, actually, I know this for a fact. He realized the value, and he was like, oh, well, that moment blew up for him. It blew up the culture at MDD, which was
Yeah.
dominant progressives just dictating the whole thing. They still have it largely in their chat, but it's changing right now. Like if you take a basic poll during a debate, it's dominated by Christians now, whereas just a year ago it was completely left-leaning. It was all these soft progressives.
Well, I think that the Crucible has had, and it's not just me at all. It's also the entire crew and the various people that we work with, like you, Jake Rattlesnake, many other very talented content creators and very talented debaters and very talented essayists. They're able to package the ideas in a way where they're well understood, right?
Mm.
And it's not a like some crazy white nationalist trope or some fucking stupid shit like that, right? They're actually packaged the correct way so that people can understand what the view is without all the noise and all the straw manning. And it's had a massively positive influence on most of these platforms, and it's brought a lot of Christians in. And what's really funny is, as much as Christians hate me for like EBT and those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just loathe me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, I don't know, you're not theologically sound enough, or I don't like this argument, or you're a hypocrite on the whatever their fucking complaints are. They can't deny the effectiveness of moving huge groups of Christians into these various spaces and fucking and mangling the progressives that are in there. They just can't deny the effectiveness of that. So on the one hand, they can bitch and moan and whine and cry about me, but on the other hand, they have to make a concession that we have changed the online culture for the better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And honestly, most of it ends up being about money. Let's face it. Like people who see people make a lot of money. Yeah, that's what it ends up being.
They don't see, of course, that, you know, I have a staff and that I pay out a shitload of money and I pay tons in taxes, and like they don't see any of that, right? They just think that oh, you made or the channel made $2,000 today, and YouTube took 30% of that. So you know you're getting in your fucking Bugatti and driving down the road. They don't realize that it's run like any other business where there's tons of expenses, there's staff pay, there's all sorts of other things that go into it, right? They just think, well, you make money online and I don't, therefore you're bad.
Yeah, I mean, they're also full of shit. You just tell them, you just ask them straight up. If suddenly whatever you were doing online on your channel, because all these people have channels too, suddenly resulted in a massive amount of super chats and engagement and memberships and sharing and people making clips of you, would you just you just take a virtuous approach and be like, I can't do this. This is not yeah, right, dude. It's just say it up front. You just say, shit, I wish I was pulling in that much money. Just say it, dude. Like any of you in the chat who that's your complaint, generally speaking, just come clean. H. Brossi says, for member for 10 months. Thank you, H. Brossi. For the both of you, in my opinion, the undercover or covert feminists on the right are far more nefarious and seemingly have an even lower level of contempt for men that disagree with them than leftists. Thoughts? You can answer that, Andrew.
Can you repeat the question?
He's basically saying the covert feminists are more nefarious and they have more contempt for men than the leftists seem to have.
That's another thing that we've done, which was desperately needed, is we have gone into the TPUSAs and the Daily Wires and the Fox News hosts of the world and just completely bludgeoned them on the fact that they're almost as bad as the feminists that they rage against, and here's why. Like, you're not going to let any of them escape, you know what I mean? And the idea of Christianity needing masculinity to be a thing which it also values, not just feminine qualities, because women really want us to be feminine Christians for some reason. I think that it has brought huge value, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. It has brought big value to these different platforms to finally be able to see that, hey, there are actually men out here who can represent that view well. And even if I don't like the guy personally, he represents the view well. And that's the best that we can do.
Also, it's basically fractured the pretty well established for many years. Dialectic, this left-right Ben Shapiro approach, where everything's like left and the right, the left and the right, and we're going, well, no, you guys have problems. Like, and Jay's been on this for a while, criticizing this sort of like soft conservative TM that's been in place that just keeps you in this left-right ping pong game. And when we start to infuse new arguments that go against both of those sides, those very like controlled, sterile sides, it causes a lot of disruption. So if anything, the disruption, even your opposition, people who don't like you or people who don't like your approach or tone police you or don't like you're making money, they couldn't possibly honestly disagree with that it's a good thing that the kind of disruption that's followed in these political theological
in fact,
debates.
Many of them will just make that concession. Many of them will make the concession. Yeah, he does a great job with this, but I hate him anyway because of A, B, C, and D. It's like there's just nothing you can do
for those,
to do anything about those people. I mean, that it's some people are just that way. They just are going to hate you no matter what you do, and I just don't care. At this point, Mike, I just don't give a shit.
Well, there's not enough time to even focus on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm always busy, as you know. I mean, Jim Bob will tell you, I'm always busy on the phone with some creator or somebody, trying to get through something every single day. So it's just the nature of this business. But ultimately, I think that you guys and the Crucible crew and this and all of it's not just the Crucible or Andrew Wilson. It's a huge conglomeration of people who are all working together to kind of beat the shit out of this whole thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I will say that you guys are doing a really good job. Every time I go online on YouTube, there's somebody who is taking on a feminist on one of these platforms and just completely destroying them.
Yeah.
And maybe it's you, or maybe it's Jake, or maybe even Brian Atlas is diving into that more and more.
Right.
Even Jay Dyer, I see him tangling up with feminist Christians more and more. I said, I just see the culture there shifting to people really just kind of bludgeoning this ideology and trying to, kind of drag its bloody carcass and throw it in the fucking dumpster bin of history where it belongs, right?
Yeah. Sirach says, you and Andrew are gynocentrics who think men should protect, provide, privilege the weak, quote, women. Also, can you define masculinity? Well, I think your first statement is a contradiction. We couldn't possibly be gynocentric if we're the ones protecting and providing privilege. It would be the opposite.
Yeah, that would be the opposite. Yeah. So gynocentrism would be the hyper focus on not just women, but on some type of coupling activity with women, that the world needs to revolve around women. That's not what the case is. The case, in fact, is the opposite, that women have a place in society which should be an honored place, right? But it shouldn't be in the position of authority. Right. That's not where their position is supposed to be. That'd be the opposite of gynocentrism.
Right, and it's not a value position either. Our position doesn't state that there's a value difference, especially from a Christian paradigm. It's just that there's a duty difference, and because there's a duty difference, there's a different place in the hierarchy, in the positions in society, in the family, in the church altogether. So it's certainly not gynocentric.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And tell me that your position too, chatter, would actually be you're just an egalitarian. So
right.
Your entire mindset is like no duties, no nothing for anybody. Right. We just have an even playing field, and it's like, well, that's just not ever going to be the case.
Yeah, it just can't happen. Turd Ferguson, $5. What's your take on it's assumed that the man has to move out if the wife wants a divorce, the husband didn't cheat, the wife just wants. I don't know what to think of that. I don't really explore that kind of. I think that's more legal in the end than some sort of like cultural phenomenon. But I could be wrong, Andrew. You can talk about that if you want. The question is, why is it assumed essentially the man has to move out if the wife wants a divorce, even if there's no fault? It's just geared toward the women. I'm saying it's probably mostly legal, which informs.
That was mostly correct. That was mostly done by the the court reforms which happened, which would give defaults to women before
Mm.
it would men. There are specific law sets for that. I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head,
Mm.
but that's where a lot of that culture became informed by that. Like, okay, if I get a divorce, you have to leave. You know, the idea is like the law is going to side with me anyway. So that's not the case anymore,
Mm.
you know, and men's rights advocates have done a lot to turn that around.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you don't have to leave now. Now the bitch can get out, right? And you'd be like, get out of here, you fuck.
Right.
Get out of here. You get out of here.
Yeah, you
You get out of
go.
here.
You go to the shed. Jessica says, this is Jordan's longer thing. If you ever date a Protestant girl, they want you to lead them spiritually as long as their idea of Christianity, which means they want to lead. Yeah, that's a good point. If that's the case, they don't actually hold the Christian view of being led. Now, I've reversed this and asks a similar question. Like, if your friend is a Protestant, and his wife is leaning toward orthodoxy and wants to go in that direction, is she, even from a general Christian view, is she obligated to follow the man into Protestantism, even though it's false, with the hopes that his heart will change and he'll find the truth? I actually don't know the answer to that question. I feel like in the short term, yes, it's probably best for the marriage for the woman to submit, even to follow a man who's in a heterodox position, with the hopes that he'll be influenced toward, in this case, orthodoxy. But I wouldn't know how to manage that. Like, even if my opinion is right or wrong, I actually wouldn't know how to engage with that if that was my friend. I would just be like, I don't even know. I don't even. What would your take on that, Andrew, be? Being if it was reversed?
Yeah, I think what would happen is she would go to her priest or she would go to her parish and try to get assisted help that way to make those types of determinations. So for one thing, the reason that this is the reason that you're not supposed to marry non-Orthodox women as an Orthodox is so that things like this don't happen, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
The idea there being that this type of conflict doesn't occur
Yeah.
if you're not marrying external to the denomination. And by the way, you don't want your house divided over which teachings to teach your children and this kind of thing.
Yeah,
But this does happen.
Yeah.
This does happen. It has created division in many homes and massive problems, and it becomes something that generally the community becomes involved in. In this case, it'd be, you know, the wife's parish would become involved, try to counsel them, try to assist, try to figure out something like this.
Yeah.
But it could be the case that in some instances the priest advises to go ahead and, you know, follow the husband, but that not to conform to the actual heterodox position. Or it could be that he gives other prescriptives for it or something like this. Each case would have to be taken on a case by case basis.
Yeah, I would say that there's, like, I don't want to call it a downside ultimately. It's good that the technology and online accessibility we have is actually giving people a chance to explore orthodoxy. But there is, like, this other symptom, whereas that means that an individual, in this case a woman, could find orthodoxy and pursue it, adjacent or parallel to her husband not finding it and not following it. So you run into these interesting pathways that didn't really exist in this way in the past. You wouldn't have this predicament, at least in this particular way. You might have a similar predicament where a town, you meet someone of a different town, and the town has a culture that's not conducive to that church.
Such is life. And the idea that you can give a prescription to any type of micro detail in a person's relationship or any sort of division which may arise due to conflicting beliefs is absurd.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not possible to do. There's going to be unique challenges which are associated with every single relationship. The idea, for instance, of like, okay, what if a man is in extraordinary pain and he wants to end his own life? Should his wife obey him? Right. It's like, well, no, I think that at that point, you're gonna have community support come in, and there's gonna have to be some kind of assistance with these various ideas, and like, that's going to be a very unique challenge to that particular couple. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what being part of the church and church authority is about, is that you have community to assist in dealing with those major issues.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, what more can you ask for than that? Like, that every single unique challenge has some type of redress, which is already predetermined. It's like, that's fucking ridiculous
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
impossible.
Well, it's just as ridiculous.
And secular society could never offer that in a million years.
Right.
So why would the idea be that religious society would need to?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to add that like it's not even the case if, you join the church willfully with your spouse and your whole family, that suddenly all of your problems go away anyway. So it's like you still have to deal with life. So like you said, such is life. Well, Manuel, $100 says, after a few months of post office journeys, I finally received the ultimate print. It's great. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Emmanuel, did you find yourself where you are in that print, by the way? I hope you did. Both and $4.99. Andrew, do you anticipate?
Hey, you know what? Speaking of that, you fucking Jim Bob,
Yeah.
where's all my free swag, fuckhead? I want free swag.
Oh, you want?
I want books and stickers.
Oh,
and
you want?
shit.
Free,
what the fuck, dude? What am I? I'm chopped fucking liver over here.
Well, they sold out so fast, and I was like, well, fuck that guy. What does he need a piece of paper? You know what it is, Andrew? I just don't see you valuing like things like that. So it just didn't occur to me. I'm like, he doesn't care about a fucking print. Where's he going to put it? In a drawer somewhere? Whatever. You know what I mean? What do you give a shit? You don't give a shit about a piece of paper, dude.
I don't like your presuppositions. You
don't give a shit.
What is your epistemic claim
I'll send you a
knowledge claim about me.
I'll send you a special one. I've got a couple of extra that are the special artist prints. Yeah, I'm gonna draw a dick on your. I'm gonna draw a dick on your head. Yeah, you're in it. You're in the print. I'm just gonna draw a dick on your head. Both and Andrew said, this is for Andrew. Do you anticipate a new school of political debaters, commentators contending with likes of you, JB? You mean from the opposite side? I think he's asking grounded foundational points. Are you talking both and opposite or more of the same?
So I think the opposition is in decadence right now, and they're in decay. One thing that you have to be able to do, which the left has always had trouble with, going all the way back to Air America Radio, trying to compete with, Rush Limbaugh and Michael Savage and Sean Hannity and all those guys. They don't entertain. They don't entertain. So there's no reason why you have to, but it's because they want to have a perception that they're super highly intellectual, right? And so often they're just terrible fucking entertainers, and most leftists are terrible entertainers. And so they think for some reason that if you're an entertaining person, this also necessarily means you're a stupid one. And that's a really big mistake. And they run into this constantly where they're like, wait, this guy's really funny, and will kick my ass logically. Like that's a hard thing to contend with. Jim Bob ultimately is a comedian.
Right.
He's a comic. He does comedic art, and he does even stand-up comedy, which, by the way, that was really funny.
Thank you.
He does, that's what he does. But it's like, does that somehow disqualify him from being a logician? No. No. And so it's just kind of funny to me that there's an instant discount based around credentialism, and then they get their asses stomped, and they're like, well, what just happened? What just happened? How did this happen?
That is crazy that's missing, even though you'd say like the entertainment world in general happens to lean progressive. So it's like you look at just the industry of entertainment is led by this, but they're not using that well with their argumentation, right? And so what's interesting is the reverse is that if you develop your logic, and if you become a decent logician, that could actually improve your art, your comedy, whatever you're doing. You could actually use it both ways. But the reason that the left can't meme is a thing, and you could add your 2 cents on, is that they don't really have a foundation for their logic. Like they don't have a thing that's unchanging for truth so they can argue their memes and meme well. They have to do these
Well,
topical things.
you bring up. I think we were talking about this. We touched on this when we were feeding alligators fishing.
Oh, right.
So I think we actually did touch on this briefly in that trip. But you're right, the left. But I say the left can't meme because all of their memes have to do with right-wing hypocrisy. That's how they meme. Their memes don't have anything to do with why you should do the things they want. Just why you shouldn't do the things that the right wants, because they're hypocrites, right? That's their kind of their major and pointing out. Oh yeah, the Trump's a family values guy, and then it shows a picture of like 3 women that he's been with or something like this, and they go ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, okay, maybe the first time I see that, it's kind of funny, but by the 3,000th variation of it, you're just like, just shut the fuck up with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if they could, if they could point to something which was indicative in reality for what people should do in a satirical way, that would be fucking great and hilarious. You know what I mean? But they don't.
Yeah, they just point to. That's actually interesting because where the right wing fails is when they just go to, can you imagine Trump did this? And that has its limitations too. Once you see that once, you're like, are you going to really do this forever?
It's the hypocrisy angle.
Yeah.
So they're both just, well, that's hypocrisy because if Trump did this, you would be up in arms, right? And so the memes on both sides, well, from that weaker side, is this very idea of you're a hypocrite and this and that. But when your satire doesn't often point at hypocrisy, though, it points at inconsistency. You know what I mean? That's most of your satire is pointing at inconsistency from their view and consistency from your view.
Right. Yeah.
And so instead of the perception of just you're a hypocrite. And so it's much more effective and it's far more hilarious.
Yeah. Inconsistency is way better to point to. Carrie Moore, $5, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Carrie. Appreciate that. Abby Wong Zong, $50, huge super chat from Abby. Thank you so much, Abby. We got Vagine talking. 1 second. Vagine?
Jimming Bob and Andrew Wilsoning. The left only make memes about right-wing hypocrisy just like how atheists only make anti-Christian content. We Hindus are safe from criticism. Praise Vishnu.
Oh, thank you, Vagine. Appreciate you saying that. Here's to your dono goal. Keep up the content. I enjoy listening to these debates from you and Andrew. Thank you, Abby. I really appreciate you're always a very generous donor. I really appreciate that. Betwixt, $5 for Andrew. What was your primary motivation for starting the Crucible? Was it a singular moment or event that inspired you to enter discourse?
Well, I wasn't always with the Crucible, and the channel I was with before broke up, so I made the Crucible by necessity because I wanted to continue what I was doing. So that was the primary reason. And it started as a debate platform where I would host debates more than anything else. And then over time, it became more centered around my views, as I would often step in and do debates if I couldn't find people. And it just kind of evolved from there. So, but I always, from the very beginning on the Crucible, did reviews and reactions and political commentary and things like this. So it was, I guess you could say it was a passion of mine.
Yeah, you got canceled from it was a primary debate platform or what was it? What's the platform? It was like a. Who
cares? I don't even.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were always debating though. That's the key. You were debating before
correct.
Debate channel. Jeff Bros, $5. Spiritual battle is real to me. Andrew and Jim Bob are warriors that use logic and human level arguments to bring others to God and Jesus. Well, we can only hope. I hope I don't push more people away in some of these engagements. But vegan runner, $1.99. I'm Genesis or in Genesis, I assume. It is clear that Elohim was once a man. That's really funny. A Mormon take. I'm glad you wrote that, vegan runner, our resident Mormon, because next week, Wednesday, I'll have Jay Dyer on, and we will do a very comedic but also in-depth analysis, refutation, and summary of Mormonism, which I've never done before. It gets wild.
I don't know though, Jim Bob. I don't. I think they need to send in more super chats.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of grift going on.
Yeah, you guys should definitely. Yeah, definitely be sending.
Let me make a quick appeal to the grift.
Yeah,
so,
do it.
Without the grift, this great and wondrous entertainment does not exist. And so we're going to take a moment to take an obscene profit break where you guys open your wallets and send the cash in. And we're going to hold the stream hostage until you do. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that. Maybe Jim Bob can play like a grift song on his guitar or something like that. But I feel like you guys deserve no more conversation until I see the wallets opening.
Yep. Pure silence over here. Speaking of grift, Andrew, we put $100 on Rachel's madebyjimbob.com account for the print. So you get the print. I know Rachel will probably manage that, so we'll just text her. I'm still torn.
I was only kidding, Jimbo.
I might
I was only joking around.
No, It's I have a couple extra, and you're in it, so so you can find yourself in it. So I think you'll appreciate it. I might draw a dick on there though, just because
You gotta draw a dick on there for sure.
Bagged milk. Following the pursuit, $10 says, thanks for giving me stuff to listen to while I study. You're welcome, Bag Milk. I'm glad it could be of value. Enslaved by Truth, $5. I think this might be Enslaved by Truth's first ever super chat over here in 15 years of me having this channel.
This $20 is because Andrew is a mean pooping head. Worse than Jay Dyer.
Yep, you got a Vagine over there on the Bob chat said she sent $20 just because you're a mean poopy head. Worse than Jay Dyer, she says. Enslaved by Truth, $5. Outlining our enslavement meetup 2025, Serpent Mound, Ohio, fall equinox. We're getting an octagon for truth or cage matches. You're all really truth or cage fighting? Get Zach Hubbard in there. That would be fun. Albert Ojeda, $9.99. For the grift, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah, keep them coming. We're at 33 of 50.
Yeah, they gotta keep going.
Yeah, you gotta keep going on this.
Yeah, we can't just stop the grift right now.
Lumbago for the grift, $9.99. Thank you so much. David James Flood gifted 1 membership. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, there's some Bob chats. Austin Titilio. If you do want YouTube to not get, if you just want to give it to them, that they can't take 30% of your money, go ahead and send in a Bob chat at bobchats.com. One just came in.
Zaz, please visit my village for some sweet poo-poo soup. It is my dream to see you both naked smeared with my cuisine.
Disgusting. Really disgusting, Vagine. I don't know if you guys can hear that on Discord when Vagine comes in. She's my, I don't know if you know Andrew. You've heard it. She's our resident Indian chick who reads the super chats. Stepfire, $99. That's what I'm talking about. Stepfire, thank you so much. Love the content. Don't force my hand again, Andrew. Well, Andrew can come out anytime.
In my defense, Stepfire, Jim Bob, he is fucking terrible at shilling his channel.
Yeah.
And at taking key moments where he is running a business. He has a household to support, this type of thing. He does, he needs to take a bit of a profit break every once in a while. He's got to make some cash. So sometimes when I'm on his stream, he graciously allows me to come on and view my nonsense. Sometimes I do full rank for the grift because it's good for the channel.
Yeah. Yep. And very effective you are. So, both and $1.99. Step up your grift, JB. Jordan Lofgren, $5. Oh, another $50 Bob chat coming in, and another $10 Bob chat.
Happy belated birthday, Jim Bob. Many years. Athanasius.
Thank you, Athanasius. Yeah, 44 now, so you'll see it in my beard. Jordan, $5. Do y'all have any desire to try to get Rob to start doing pre-sup? He's great at arguing, but a lot of his arguments are about hypocrisy, not foundation. I don't know, Andrew. I don't think he'll get too deep into philosophy. He seems to be pretty comforted and rooted in politics.
We need guys. We need guys like Rob to also operate on the same kind of normal discourse level for politics.
Yeah.
Having the deep entrenched knowledge base of the inner workings and goings on at the political level, and to argue those things at a a less than philosophical level is brilliant rhetoric and also is very effective at changing minds. He doesn't need to dive in to the philosophy aspect. It's not as important.
Yeah, he's also pretty ideal for bigger platforms like Piers Morgan, where there are sound bites, very effective sound bites that are produced, and you can get points across without going to philosophical jargon. In fact, it might even hinder him to get further into philosophy. Guy Incognito, $10. I remain unconvinced of the grift argument. Take my money. Thank you so much. President Sundowner, $9.99. I miss the good old days of Andrew moderating. It's a good teaching tool for these Dilla monkeys. Moderation. Do you miss moderating?
Well, I mean, I do moderate. You know, I still do moderate debates. I don't do it as much. For me, it's always a time issue. Me and Jim Bob talked about this many times privately, that, you know, time is always my biggest enemy, and I don't get that many days off. And when I do have a day off, I end up usually just kind of working anyway. And this is not to complain, right? I mean, people would kill to be in the same position that I'm in. So I'm not complaining at all, just pointing out that it's actually really difficult for me to moderate debates like I used to, but for special occasions, I'll still do that.
Well, it's just not the best use of your time. If you're a weapon, like, that's not the place to put you necessarily. That's more like leisure, like when you want to hang out and drink a beer.
Yeah, you don't use the sword to make the cheese.
Yeah. Guy Incognito, $5. Keep this dono train chugging. Choo-choo, motherfuckers. Thank you so much. Austin Tadelio, $10. Andrew has a gift for the grift. He really does. Not to say it's not a valid exchange of services for money. It's just that he's just really good at it.
No, it's not a valid exchange. It
should be more. It should be more.
It's not a valid exchange. Like, just give me your fucking money. And just
keep this channel going.
Yeah, just give him the fucking.
All right, we're almost at 50. We got 9 more, you guys. 9 more. I'm gonna hold to it. We got 9 more. Get them in. Get them in.
Get them in.
Get them in. I'll shut the whole machine down. No more songs. No more funnies. No more animation. None of it.
It's like 25 people who leave. They're like, fuck the grift. Not the grift. Damn the grift.
Jim Bob too. Yeah. The Crucible will overtake MD. Well, maybe the culture doing life. I talked about this with someone else recently, that it's already sort of, if the Crucible is like a wave and there's a ripple, the ripple has already taken over MDD. And I don't mean that like, you know, against James, like he has no control. I'm just saying that the culture has already infiltrated the chat and the direction of the channel. What they need now is just better production and better execution of the debates. And that's not a dig at anyone. It's just that's just the case. It just needs to be better. I think it might get better too, you know. So if I can help, I will. Call Andrew the Wambulance, right? Call him the Wambulance, $5. Thank you. Agrillapolis grifted 1 made by Jim Bob membership. Thank you so much. Lauren, another $5. We're almost there. 7 more, y'all. 7 more. Get them in. I'll take back all the I'll take
David
back
Atlas.
Yeah.
Look at David Atlas throwing in the 10.
Yeah, there we go. There we go, David. I'll take back all your Bob-Vitars. I'll just take them back. I'll flag them for copyright infringement if I see them.
Yeah, fucking dirtbags. Just give him the money. Just give him the, what the fuck? Give him the money. What are you doing? Give him the money.
Hand it over. Production and audio is pathetic on MD. I just don't understand why they started with like the, not just Zoom, but the Google Meets. It's like StreamYard sucks for certain dynamic things, audio-wise, but in general, you can use StreamYard and it'll be fine. So hopefully they figure that out. Taint Nuffin, $4.99. Damn you, Andrew. Take my money. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Taint.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going to take a soundbite of Andrew from this stream and just play it as a Stream Deck asset. You know what I mean?
He says, Frank's like, this is robbery. Yes, it is.
That's right.
Yes, it is.
This
Meme
is,
TV, is this how patriarchy works?
yeah, kind
Yes.
of. Yeah,
Yes,
pretty
it
much.
is. Yes, it is.
Griffmaster.
The $2
Yep.
super chats don't count.
They don't
$2 super
count.
chat doesn't
Yep.
count.
Give it
They
back.
don't count.
Brandon, $10. Thank you so much. Good to see you both on a stream together. If all come full circle, we're all here chatting it up with Wes. Yeah, that would be funny. Allegedly in jail for facing something like 20 years in prison. I highly doubt it's going to be 20. He probably wishes, though. He probably misses it, don't you think? I think he really misses it. How much he talks up prison. Even in the debacle we had with him, he was just, it seemed like he really missed it. Is this robbery? Yeah. Yeah, hand it over. Give me all your money. Hand it over.
Yeah. Yeah, give it up. Give it up.
Incognito, $5.
Andrew coaching Jim Bob.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Palpatine.
Towards the
Yeah.
dark side.
Yeah.
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 Send him the money.
Frieza,
Do
Jim,
it.
I'm late. Glad
Do
to
it.
be here. When are we going to get a team up debate and Andrew? I don't know if that would be effective. It would be fun for us, but Andrew doesn't need
I mean,
a
that
partner.
vegan one was pretty good.
Yeah,
the
vegan one
was pretty good.
It's almost like it's just, I don't even know. I mean, I would do it. It would be, you know what I would do? I would do that for a meme debate more than, because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. It'd be like it would almost like be like drones. But
we should
also
do a debate
Yeah.
on the on Star Wars Empire versus versus non-Empire. Who
Yeah.
was right? That would be a lot of fun.
that would be fun. There's a lot of jokes in there. I think a fun debate would be best. But I mean, that's even your experience. If you were to choose, Andrew, you would debate 1 versus 1 or 1 versus even 6 before you did 2 versus 2 or 2 versus 6. You'd prefer 1,
Yeah,
right?
I would always prefer.
Yeah.
I always prefer out.
I think the audience would too. You know, I think that's it works well for some people. Andrew is almost as Canadian as MDD. Wow, those are fighting words right there.
Bro,
That's
no
worse.
way a guy named Goldstein sent you money. No fucking way, bro. That didn't just happen, dude.
That's funny.
I'm teasing Dan. Dan, I'm teasing. Relax, bro. There's a funny joke. Calm down, Dan.
Brian Wanderer, $5. You're live on my commute to work, still live on my drive home. Relentless, sir. Thank you very much. Keep the grift going. Yeah, I'm streaming much longer. What's funny is that I always, once in a while, I'll talk to Andrew about, directions to go in, what to focus on. It's just funny. Our last conversation, I was talking about just not streaming and just making shit, and we were both like excited about it. Literally 2 days after, I start doing 5-hour streams. It's like you just never. I don't know. You just never know where it's gonna go.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. Bombs Moms, $10. Thank you so much. Said nothing. Goal. Well, Emmanuel says thank you so much. Dan Goldstein. Getting grifted, my Andrew, across multiple time zones and platforms. What the hell? Take my money. I will take it. Stepfire, another $20. Thank you. You gotta stop. I got kids to feed. Another $100 from Gully46. Thank you so much. Wow. Very generous of you. Says nothing. Just says it with his wallet. I appreciate that.
Can I respond to Stepford? He says you got to stop. You got kids to feed. Okay, if it comes down to Jim Bob's kids or your kids, I'm sorry, bro. It's got to be Jim Bob's kids. Like that's the way it's got to be.
That's true.
And it's like, what part of that are you not getting? It's got to be his. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even need. Just have more. Just have more, bro.
Yeah, just Star Wars was a prequel to Star Trek. Oh, is that okay, so is that in defense of Star Wars? Right? Because there's the Star Wars, Star Trek war, which is better,
Star Trek came out before Star Wars, but
right.
Okay.
Right.
Just saying. It doesn't make any sense, but
Star Wars, there's
now,
a bunch of
guys,
problems.
wait, you hit your goal here, didn't you, Jim Bob?
I did. I hit my goal. Celebrate.
Oh my God. And so, like I promised, you guys are going to continue to get content, just not with me because I'm leaving. Have a wonderful day. I'm
Thanks,
glad
Andrew.
that we were able to grift all you fuckers. And I'm not staying to give you any more content. Kiss
Thank
my
you.
ass. Have a great day, Jim
See you,
Bob.
man.
Take care of yourself.
God
buddy.
bless. See you, man. Step for another $50. Can't argue with that. Thank you so much for that, Step for. I really appreciate that. Now, Appreciate Andrew coming over. What a great conversation. I'm going to actually have to rename the stream given that we did very minimal prep work. We did some, but it was more of a glorious conversation, much needed, and I hope it was valuable. With that said, I do believe that there is some opposition in the Discord. I think still, maybe. I don't know. You guys can let me know. If there is, we can get into that if you want now. But thank you so much, everyone, for all the support and the temporary grift moment, the as he calls it.
Hey, Genevieve, what's up?
Hey, what's
I
going
actually disagree. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
But there's a hypothetical you posed earlier, which I had extreme contention with, especially if you follow like a Christian view.
Hold on a second. Sorry, my OBS says it's disconnecting, so I'm going to have just like a 15-second delay. It's going to reconnect in a second.
Wouldn't it cause the same effect where in the end it would both of them would cause the downfall of the institution of marriage, which is the critique against liberalism?
Wait, say that again. You cut out the first part about that.
Oh, your mic turned really weird. I understand why.
It's because my
either
connection.
way,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Say
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, you hear me now?
Yeah. Say the hypothetical again.
Yeah. So the hypothetical was, does it, if, for example, women were able to have robots that protected them from men and were able to enforce women's rights, men would also equally have robots to take the primary role of women, which is to reproduce. I said, if that were to happen and they were only to select to reproduce men and not women, the male society would then have a degradation of the institution of marriage. Unless you believe in a Christian worldview, you can have marriage with a robot, though it has no soul.
Oh, there's a lot of things in there. I'm not sure. Did someone pose the hypothetical where robots replace human beings from the Christian position? Or are you just saying that hypothetically, if there was a society that robots replaced men as the application of force, the ones enforcing laws and policing people, etc.?
Well, this was posed. This was an argumentation that Andrew provided, and I said that do you recall what I'm talking about at all? Specifically about robots he was discussing.
Yeah, it was saying that the people who don't like who fail to provide an equalizer for men and women will then go to technology and they'll say, well, robots then start birthing people. Is that the other aspect? Like there's an
equal.
equal.
Hearing this? Or...
Oh, is it still choppy?
It's really bad.
Okay. Yeah, at this point, sometimes my stream gets choppy for some
By the way,
reason.
I'm back to respond to this.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Digital, like 4-bit.
Okay.
Oh, hello, BTF. Welcome back.
He's back.
You're strawmanning the shit out of the position. So the position wasn't what ought to happen. It's a descriptive of what's going to happen. So
you want to reformat it then? Whatever your name is, PhD in logic.
That's what happens if the transhumanist future that you so desperately want, and my claim actually is that Christians would be opposed to artificial wombs and things like this. So what you did was you made up a hypothetical that was never made.
I mean, well, okay, even then, I think then your description is even wrong. If you're trying to talk about its applicability and how it would work in the real world, in the liberal framework, it would then entail that there would still be regular, normal relationships in the transhumanist future position through authority of the robots, because robots would be greater than men. Also,
that's just something you're stop one at a time. Right.
Yeah.
So that's incorrect. Who postulated that women would be able to use enforcement through robotics? That's something you're postulating.
You did.
No,
it was actually within your hypothetical.
Dollar robot that they make?
$1 billion
costs
valuation.
$1 billion?
It's not it doesn't cost $1 billion. You're taking into R&D account.
Yeah, research and development, because right now those types of robots, which can exist for things as complex as rights enforcement, we are decades and decades away from that.
That's not even true. Wait, what do you want about? Wait, hold on. Wait, if you look at the, then I mean, then are you?
Yeah, show me where
it costs around $30,000 to make. So
bullshit. Show me the link. Lying sack of shit. Show
I'm
me.
not. Wait, it's either you think I'm lying or you think I'm just
I
not saying what's
I
truthful.
think you're not telling the truth. Yes, on purpose, which would be a lie. So go ahead.
It's
Send me
not
the
a
link.
lie. I mean, if you think that Tesla actually does no longer has a
Are
massive
I'm waiting.
valuation.
I don't
Yeah,
want to hear
I
your
will.
babble. I want a link.
Okay, well, you have to give me a second, man. But
Okay, and I'm gonna give you a second.
I understand you work in robotics, but it's not like or worked previously.
Yeah. No, you're nowhere near a rights enforcement robot. Show me.
By the way, you'd still have to have a whole body of people enforcing the enforcement if you even granted robot enforcement. It's not like it just does its
but
thing on its own. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna humor
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
until we get through his empirical claims.
Yeah.
Let's
okay.
get through the empirical claims first. That we're on the verge of rights enforcement robots for women that cost 30 grand. I can't fucking wait to see.
30 grand. That's hilarious.
I posted in the side chat. This is within the recent time in the future. Basically, what it's showing is that the Optimus robot already has the capabilities to do menial.
Chill out. I don't want your interpretation. I don't care about your interpretation yet. I just
Well, I'm
want
gonna
to know
give it to
where.
you. You don't have to listen to it.
Okay,
I'm
that's
gonna give
nice.
it.
Can you
No.
just give me a second first to
You don't
actually see it?
Yeah.
So,
You can't
okay,
editorialize
let's do that
it, dude.
first. Yeah, where did you put it?
It's in the side chat.
In the VC
Well, I
text
don't know
chat?
what's the side chat.
VC side chat. Yeah, you can DM it to Andrew.
I don't see
Live
it.
stream VC?
Is it the
What?
voice text or the
VC?
voice or which one?
VC chat?
Voice side chat, but yeah. I mean, I'm willing to even just engage with the hypothetical just purely through the hypothetical, but you can look at the empirics of this.
Dude, stop talking so I can. Is it in the what does the room say that you put it in? What does it actually say?
Atheism/evolution, and it's in the side chat, and I can post it like 10 times.
Can you put it in the VC text chat?
It is the VC text chat.
Here, I'll put it in.
No, the VC text chat above. Yeah.
Is it in there? Did someone put it in?
I put it there.
VC checks. Yeah, there it is.
Andrew, this is Justin Henley speaking. I sent it to you on a direct Discord message
Yeah, I
if
got
that
it.
helps.
I'm looking at it now. Okay, but You indicated the cost to train the robot could be around 50 billion. So 50 billion to train it. Okay. Let's see. Reveal the lead robot.
That's a pretty small amount.
This is
by the way.
this is fucking hilarious, bro. So let's get the tasks that this thing can do. It can do a human-like walk. It can explore unseen spaces, capture visual cues, find its charging station, pick up heavy things. So it can start to navigate uneven terrain. Not quite, but it can start to. And it can respond to requests and hand out items. Such a robot would cost $20,000. Can you tell me how this robot could ever enforce women's rights, you doofus?
So this is within the. Wait, hold on, Andrew.
Fucking don't, bro.
Wait, Andrew, this is being fallacious, and then I'll tell you the
That's
reason
hilarious.
why. Because this is within the same expectation or in time period of artificial wombs would be implemented. Within the rate that robotics are scaling, as you should know, because you're in the industry, this would be exponentially higher. Particularly considering.
Well,
Wait, I let you finish. I let you finish, man. I didn't ask a question. It's not garbage.
This
you
is
just
literally garbage.
you deem it to be garbage because you don't want to
You
listen.
literally gave me.
I get it.
a
You're not
garbage-
talking to one of your drones,
You gave
and
me.
you can't just.
a garbage.
Okay.
You gave me a garbage study.
Can you
where
mediate
the
this, Jim Bob?
robot- The robot is literally only capable of maybe handing you stuff, dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
understand what
right.
you gave me here?
So you keep doing this thing right now where I'm telling you that there's already robots that are able to complete menial tasks. That's what I said prior, and I said at the rate of which both these industries are increasing, artificial wombs don't exist yet. You can't have a baby within an artificial womb and have it survive. That's just not true. And also that comes across with the issue we don't have the technology yet. Even CRISPR and etc. don't have the technology yet to do genetic randomization. Second of all, I was gonna say. When it comes to robotics, it's scaling at a rate much faster considering that AI is able to have we're able to take on a bigger load compared to what like a traditional computer with just like the coding of calculating variables and such. AI will be able to take on a much more interactive role and much more leading role within robotics.
Yeah. So I'll address each one of these at the same time. One, no, you're wrong. So the problem is with complex tasks, especially robotics complex tasks, you can get them to do complex things. That's true. It's getting them to do easy things for humans that's really hard. Like, did you notice it said that maybe it could navigate uneven terrain? Maybe at some point. That for human beings is not problematic. It's not an issue, right? However, like calculating, a complex math problem, that is complex for human beings. Machines are really good at doing that kind of stuff. They're really not very good at doing any of the normal stuff that we're able to do. So the thing is, hang on, stop, bro. My turn. I just let you talk.
I thought you were done there. It's okay. Yeah. I thought you were done.
Well, clearly I'm not, because I'm still talking. So anyway, what you sent me is showing the same type of robotics technology that we had in the 80s. Okay, this live stuff that you showed me. Okay, Johnny Five still alive, short circuit type shit that you're showing me here. And by the way, even those robots are more sophisticated than that robot. So the thing is like, no. And when we're looking at artificial wombs, we're much closer to that technology than we are a rights enforcement robot that can autonomously enforce women's rights with force. Do you realize,
right.
Like, do you understand that just... No, what I said is that the robot sent me, the robot you sent me, right, is no more complex than Johnny Five.
It is more complex because it's able to...
Did I say anything about the technology of robots not being more advanced now than it was in the 80s? No, you just
said
make shit up.
I'm speaking in particular to this specific robot. Okay, so in particularly this robot is able to complete tasks of which your Johnny Five robot wasn't able to do. It is able to take on complex variables. Hold on, it's able to take on
Johnny Five.
Okay, so Johnny Five, right? So Johnny Five can analyze a car and decide which part to replace.
Yes. Johnny Five, not only but what was capable of human speech. It's a movie, you dolt. A movie.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. So would you then be saying it's irrelevant of what the movie thinks?
Yeah, but listen.
These things don't exist.
The envisionment, right, of what robots are capable or not capable of doing is purely from the fictional aspect right now, because we don't have robots which are capable of rights enforcement. So.
Wait. Yeah, over on the stream side, it's choppy. Am I choppy, though? Because it could be just the Discord, and it could be that so many people are piled into the channel right now over there. I might have to boot some people from Discord, if that's the case. I'm not sure, though. If it's buffering and it's me, like, if you tell me I'm buffering, then it's not Discord. So, can you guys hear me and not... I just muted the Discord. So, am I choppy now? Or what? And the tab I refreshed and it worked. Yeah. Yeah, it's cutting out. I just need to know from your guys' position. Am I cutting out now that I've deafened the Discord? Yes or no? Lost the chat too? Yeah. It's annoying. Annoying. Whatever. Sounds like I'm behind on the chat too, like by a lot. I don't know what's happening. I just don't know what's happening here. Is it back? Buffering bad? I don't know. It's funny, we're talking about technology. We're talking about whether or not robots can enforce rights, and we can't even get a stream to work.
I know finance. I know finance.
So anyway, just real quick, okay, just so you know, I'm telling you what the futures in markets are predicting. The futures markets are predicting AI. Futures markets are predicting artificial wombs. Futures markets are
fix the audio. I don't know how to fix the audio. I honestly don't know how to fix it. I don't know what's broken about the audio. If you guys can't hear the thing, maybe it's a server overload. I still don't hear from you guys whether you can hear me directly. Can you hear me directly? Can you hear me? Am I cutting out?
why a lot of them
No,
say
that's
Tesla.
not. That's not what
Right.
futures are. Futures are not
Oh my
betting
God.
on Tesla robots.
It's not
bro.
betting at all.
It is betting. That's what futures markets do. They bet
Okay,
on the
so
future.
people, so you think they're not, it's not betting, but either way, it's anyway.
Yes, it's literally betting. How is it not betting?
Because
You're saying in the future this technology is going to be X, so I'm going to invest in it now. You're betting.
that's like a retarded gambling term, but that's like anyway, it's a
It's
lot
a bet.
either way. You made a false claim. Wait, hold on. Okay, then why have
There's no
longs?
false claim I've made.
Okay, then why is futures for Teslas increased exponentially then?
Because people are betting that Tesla will have viable products in both AI and in automobiles.
No, people actually priced in that the market's actually priced in that Tesla's going to underperform in relation to their vehicles.
Yeah, and then they're going to overperform in things like AI. What's your point?
Oh, okay, then doesn't that also include with the Optimus robot? Plenty of people are very
laggy.
long on the
I don't know what
Optimus
to do.
AI
With the
has
Optimus.
nothing.
I actually don't know what to do at this point. Should I just end the stream? Hey, if you guys want to continue the debate, go over to Discord, jump in. I'm gonna end the stream. Good time to end the stream anyway. Okay. I'm good. Yeah, I'm getting mixed signals. Am I good? Is it good? Now it's good. Just happened again. Buffering again. Yeah, I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna eat lunch. It's fine now. It's choppy for me. No, you're on. No, you're good now. It's still choppy as hell. It's not as bad. I mean, this is too much. I'm just going to end it. It was a great stream. End it while it's good, okay? With that said, I'm going to do other creative things. I have an animation to make. I have to practice music. I have to prepare for a debate. God bless you all. Adios. See you next time. Arrivederci, huh?